Check 1, 2. Bus check 1, 2. JTV bus check 1, 2. Robin, I'll leave this on.
Welcome. I call the meeting to order. Please rise, salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law and has been duly advertised in the newspaper as an official meeting. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella.
Present.
Mr. McCarron.
Present.
Mrs. Barocas.
Present.
Dr. Osmond.
Present.
Mrs. Rivera.
Present.
Mrs. Cass.
Present.
Mr. Palmieri.
Present. I need a motion for approval of the agenda.
Motion. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Gardella.
Yes.
Mr. McCarron.
Yes.
Mrs. Barocas.
Yes.
Dr. Osmond.
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera.
Yes.
Mrs. Cass.
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri.
Yes. Before I turn it over to the superintendent, I would just like to thank everyone who is here tonight. I want to thank everyone who left work and have families who've come out here and supported this district. We put in our time because we care so much, and this is what we fight for every day. For you guys, for your kids, for our kids, and for everyone watching, we thank you. I also want to acknowledge some of our elected officials here tonight. I want to thank you for coming and for your continued support and your continued advocating for this district. I'd like to thank and acknowledge Assemblyman Alex Sawicki, Mayor Mike Rena, Council President Jennifer Kuhn, and Councilman Modi Bernstein. So thank you for coming. Thank you all for being here. I now turn it over to Ms. Permilli for her superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Palmieri, and I echo the same sentiments. Thank you, everyone, for being in attendance. It's good to see a full audience tonight. I'm going to go to the podium for my superintendent's report to give an update. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Do I need to turn the mic? There we go. I turned it on. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Tonight is what we normally would call a budget hearing night. However, we've had to pivot a little bit and change that. And it's no longer called a public forum tonight for our budget, but rather we are going to provide an update of where we are in our budget. We still have an enormous budget deficit, and it remains unbalanced. Therefore, there is no vote on any budget. You need to have a balanced budget to vote on that. So tonight, there will be a public forum for you to provide input. However, we do not have a balanced budget. Therefore, we do not have a budget hearing, but rather a budget update. And the purpose of this evening is to explain our funding crisis once again, the history of aid cuts, the revenue and cost challenges this district has faced, the status of the district's request to the New Jersey Department of Education for this current school year, the 23-24 budget, which was $10.2 million request, where we stand with the 24-25 budget process, and what has changed since we introduced the tentative budget for 24-25. So let me first begin with a very high-level view of explaining the funding crisis. For the last 7 years, if you have been listening, attending, or reading presentations online, you should have some greater detail that I'm not going to go into this evening. So if you are not familiar, please go to our website and really dig deeper to better understand what has been happening the last 7 years. So this will be a very high level. Next 2 slides, overview of our budget crisis. So basically, over the past 7 years, the district has been devastated with the loss of half of our state aid. So half of our state aid has been lost over the last 7 years. You can see to the right how that has come to fruition year after year. In fact, Jackson is the top 10 over those 7 years of losing the most amount of state aid. So you can imagine after that compounding what it does to a district. We have made cuts to our budget every year. We have been working the last 7 years in a cut model. That has included many, many cuts, including curriculum, activities, athletics. We've postponed much-needed facility improvements. We've lost 215 positions. Everybody here, our staff, is doing more with less. And obviously, something we don't ever want to do is increase our class sizes, and we have also done that. And so at this point, we have reached this fiscal cliff. We've done everything within our control to not affect our students and to put our students first in the face of these monumental and compounding funding losses, simultaneously with increases in costs due to inflation over the last few years. Every year, we have gone out to the maximum and collected the 2% levy increase that we're permitted to by law. Imagine 2% is all we can go up in revenue. Slashed in state aid and can only go up 2%. Think about your own homes and how that affects you. So we have done those things every year for the last 7 years. We saw it last year. We saw voter approval in November 2024. We looked for a special question to bring in more money. Again, the only other way we can bring in more revenue. Unfortunately, that was voted down. As I have said previously, we've lost 215 positions. That's across the board of all of our staff, secretarial, custodial, teachers, administrators, you name it, those positions have been reduced. We have worked to increase revenue. We have sought every grant that's available, and we've been very successful, thank you to the staff here who do apply for those grants. So we've been able to at least try and pull some of that in and put some of our costs towards using grant money. We have advocated really hard to try to educate over the last 7 years. We've testified at hearings, at budget hearings, at the Senate, at the Assembly. We've sent letter upon letter. We've asked for meeting upon meeting to educate the stakeholders and also educate the decision makers on how things are playing out here in Jackson. Wanting to believe that anybody knew what was happening here, they couldn't allow it to happen. It's going to affect students. So we have done that all over the last 7 years. With all of that, and you think about everything that I just said and the reductions over 7 years working in a constant cut model, you can imagine how this actually comes to fruition. The district is actually, with the 24-25 budget year, we will all be spending about $24 million under adequacy, which means under what the average school system should be spending according to the state figures. So if that doesn't tell you that we have made reductions, we certainly have. We're underspending $24 million. And if you just take a quick note up at the top there, you'll see that what an adequate budget means. This is information that the state puts out that calculates what would be necessary, what's the necessary funding to provide a thorough and efficient education for the students within a school system. So we are not overspending. The numbers tell us that. By way of a note, I just want to make sure that I mention this evening. So we have been informed, we've been using the word alone for the last few years, and so we've been informed that there really is no such thing as a loan, but that the New Jersey Department of Ed has explained that the use of the word loan is really not accurate. What's more accurate is to describe a request for advanced state aid payment. So I want to make sure you hear that this evening, so if I'm using the words advanced state aid payment, you know what that means. That's really meaning the loan that we've been referring to the last few years. What's also important to note here that comes from code is the bottom part of that slide that comes from the New Jersey Department of Ed code. It is extremely rare instances, and only when certain fiscal conditions are met, state law empowers the Commissioner of Education to recommend to the state treasurer an approval of an advanced state aid payment to ensure the provision of a thorough and efficient education in the current budget year after the adoption of a balanced budget. So there is room for the commissioner to help districts that are struggling. So just want to make sure I note those two things. So looking now, where do we stand for the current school year? The one we're in right now, the 23-24 school year, and the state aid request, right, / loan, that we have been talking about now for about a year. So while we were developing the current budget, 23-24 last spring, we included a revenue line of $10.2 million seeking a loan or advanced state aid from the New Jersey Department of Education because we knew we couldn't cut any further without affecting students' programs. And on May 2nd of 2023, as recommended by the Ocean County Superintendent of Schools at that time, we wrote a formal request of $10.2 million for assistance from the Department of Ed. We have spent all year participating in diligent review and discussions with the county and the Department of Education. In January, as you may all know, the New Jersey Department of Ed assigned a state monitor to the district, and that is required when a district has a budget deficit and is seeking assistance from the Department of Education. So all of these things have happened this current school year. So where are we now with that request? Well, we still don't have advanced state aid at this point, but we are working with the state monitor who is working with us to get to the exact amount of funding she will be recommending for the district to receive in advanced state aid to support our current budget. Once that recommendation is made, the Commissioner of Education will make a final determination on the monitor's recommendation to the Treasury Department. We're hopeful to have that determination by May 14th board meeting. We will obviously keep you updated. I do want to mention here that the reason that we're continuing to work with the monitor on this is because we did seek and did get permission. The district has been permitted to use $4.4 million in unspent funds of interest that has occurred from 2002 and 2005 referendum projects to support the current budget. This is on the board agenda tonight for approval this evening. So that will lower the amount of assistance that we will need in advanced state aid, which is great. We don't want to have to take that assistance. So it's good that we have that permission to be able to use that money. That's usually restricted money that we need permission for, and we were granted that permission. So as you can imagine, it's been a little tricky. We're essentially working in two budgets right now, 23-24, trying to solve that deficit, and also 24-25. So that's where we stand for the current school year and budget. I'm going to shift gears now and talk about the 24-25 budget. We've coined it Mission Impossible. It really is an impossible feat to cut so much money out of a budget. And it's disheartening knowing that we have been articulating, have been communicating this to people at the right places who make these decisions, that we would reach this fiscal cliff. You can only reduce so much when you don't have extra revenue coming in. So in the face of monumental and compounding aid losses, and after making extraordinary cuts and having costs rise incredibly, it just creates this mission impossible where in order to cut a significant amount of money, we will not have a thorough and efficient education for our students. So it's a bit of a balancing act trying to figure out how we get to reduce. As we have done every year, we make fiscally responsible decisions and we operate in a cut model. So on March 20th, we introduced the tentative budget here. That included a $30 million deficit on our tentative budget. There was a line item for other revenue that we put that $30 million in assistance that we would seek from the Department of Education into our budget. However, on April 4th, the Jackson School District was informed by the county office that we were not permitted to include any kind of state assistance in the budget document in order to balance our budget. So in other words, we needed to cut the $30 million. As you can imagine, that's where you heard from us when we put our communication out to all of you. That's massive to have to cut that amount of money. As we said we would do during the tentative budget presentation, as I just said, every year we've been working in a cut model and making fiscally responsible decisions to reduce our expenses. We worked between March and now to identify how we could reduce and get that $30 million down to a smaller number. And you'll see in a minute how we did that. The cuts are difficult. Every year they're difficult. There's nothing that we don't want to have to do without, nor do we want our students to have to do without. So we worked hard to try and close that gap, but even with the cuts, obviously we could still not balance. We are left at a $25 million deficit. So basically we were able to reduce by $5 million, $5.5 million. And I just want to remind everybody at this point, this is information sharing, this is not the budget hearing, this is not going out for public vote, this is just sharing where we're at this point. So the changes that we've made since the tentative budget, the recommendations that we're making are to reduce by 27 positions. They are all through attrition, retirements, or resignations. No individual is losing their job. However, it's still painful. You feel that effect. As I said earlier this evening, the district has continually, our staff has continually worked harder and harder with less and less. So I just want to point out that the 10 vacant bus driver positions are positions we have been unable to fill all year. So there's nobody in those positions, and so we're just saying we've been living without them, we're going to continue to live without them right now. And so this totals 242 positions over 7 years. That's awful. It's a terrible number. And it results in about $2.4 million in reductions. We continue to make some reductions in all sorts of areas. I do want to point out that the township and the mayor have agreed to fully fund our SROs. So thank you for that. That's huge. That allows us to keep 2 SROs in our school district. We were splitting that cost. Definitely deserves applause. We were splitting that cost, and now we will no longer have that expense and have the benefit of our excellent SROs. We've reduced lots of other line items, our substitute staffing line item, again, a hit to our instructional supplies, our custodial supplies, and our office supplies. I mean, they are down to nothing. We've reduced overtime district-wide. We have also looked at our participation rates. And honestly, in order to ensure that students could continue to participate in both of our high schools in sports, we have gotten some agreement to have some cooperative agreements between the 2 high schools for boys and girls swimming, girls bowling, girls cross country. No athlete will lose the opportunity to play those, but rather will have the opportunity by doing this co-op between the 2 high schools. And that will save us a little bit of money as well. We are working hard to increase revenue wherever we can, again, with grants and really publicizing the use of our facilities to bring in more after hours, to bring in more revenue. So we have also increased the revenue line there. And we eliminated the funding for our summer curriculum work. We're actually shifting it to some grant money instead. So that totals about $3 million in reductions with a total of about 5.5 that we were able to reduce that $30 million deficit down. So as I said, we're now at a $25 million deficit, still awful. We have made the fiscal responsible cuts that I just mentioned, but we can't cut any further without sacrificing a safe, thorough, and efficient education for our students. We can't cut any further without providing opportunities that our students so well deserve and need. They lose opportunities. They lose scholarship opportunities without these things. They lose opportunities to be enriched, to make connections in different ways. We just can't do that. It's just when other students will have those opportunities. So we're stuck at this $25 million deficit. The DOE, through the county office and the fiscal monitor, will need to identify how we proceed, how we are to close the remaining budget gap, unless another solution emerges. We will continue to work with the New Jersey Department of Education, as we have all along, to answer any questions, demonstrate anything they need to see in our fiscal responsibility and our budget, and we're going to continue to be committed to students, because that's what we do here. We're educators. This is an awful slide. I'm going to start with that. This isn't anything, like I just said, that we are recommending at all. It is not being recommended by this district. However, these are things that are not considered necessarily thorough and efficient. These are things that could be a jeopardy to close that $25 million gap. Again, how is that okay? How is that okay? Class sizes would be up tremendously, making it very difficult for our teachers to individualize, to teach, and to help students make progress. This would mean closing schools, not a school, schools. No athletics, no clubs, no band, no theater. We have award-winning programs here. We have athletics that are award-winning and just incredible programs here. It could mean no more ROTC in this district, reduction in security, taking away some of the safety levels we have here. Courtesy busing, as you know, the roads in Jackson can be very dangerous. We don't have a lot of sidewalks, very windy county roads. No academic supports beyond the teacher in the classroom, limiting our tiered interventions. Barely any AP courses. No late buses, no facility improvements, reduction in electives. Could even mean not having the preschool program anymore. It could mean going back to half-day kindergarten. These are the types of things. You need big things like that to close a $25 million gap. This is heartbreaking. This is why, as educators, we can't recommend these kinds of cuts. We're educators. Our students deserve better. We have students with serious mental health concerns who need these connections to these things so that they feel connected to other people and school. I think everybody gets the point. There is pending legislation. So as I said before, there may be recommendations to make those cuts, but we also hope that something might come through between now and our May 14th meeting that would help districts like Jackson. Jackson's not alone. There's other districts in the same position with these massive cuts that they have to close, or massive gaps that they have to close, rather. So there are some pending. Our legislators are working hard, trying to figure out ways that they can help these districts like ours. So there's lots of things out there. We'll keep a watchful eye to see what passes, and if something passes, we'll meet, we'll discuss, and see how it can benefit Jackson. We'll continue to advocate. We ask you to continue to advocate, and I want to thank everybody who has been advocating. It has been a tremendous amount of people reaching out, some of you sending me things that you've sent out to legislators or the Department of Ed. I want to thank the board for all of their advocacy, the staff, our residents, our students, the council, the mayor. We need to continue. This isn't okay. This isn't okay for our kids. So I'm going to leave and close my superintendent's report with the father of American education, Horace Mann, and a quote is so relevant. 1800s, right? He says this quote, "If ever there can be a cause worthy to be upheld by all toil and sacrifice that the human heart can endure, it is the cause of education." And that's where we stand here in Jackson. So with that, I ask the board if there's any questions.
I have a question. Ms. Morris, can you please explain your roles and responsibilities with being assigned to a district in financial distress?
Basically, the law requires that if a district asks the State Department of Education for an advance payment of state aid, it must also be assigned a monitor. And as you know, I arrived in January, and with the anticipation at that time that I start saying loan too, that the advance payment or loan, whichever you want to call it, was coming around the same time that I arrived. There has been, as indicated, a delay in it. There were a number of questions that had to be asked and answered. We are still struggling with some of the issues that would involve a decision on that. The commissioner is awaiting a recommendation from myself as to how much the advance payment should be, what the district needs to complete the 23-24 school year before we even approach the other. There is a section in 18A that describes all of the authority and responsibility of the, when a state monitor is assigned. I will be very happy to print that out for you and see that you have the entire board has a copy, if you'd like.
Yes, please do so.
Now, to your direct question, as far as the responsibility is concerned, it's to basically oversee the financial issues of the district. It is not to step in and actually remove those from the responsibility of the superintendent or the business administrator. It's to let you still run your district. And hopefully that's a relationship that's built on trust and can eventually produce the kind of result. You have a very difficult issue here that sometimes other districts with monitors do not have. If it involves something that can directly be corrected by the monitor, then and the district, that's one thing. Here you have a revenue issue, so finding more revenue, as the superintendent indicated, it's not a spending issue. There has been no, to my knowledge, I have seen no mismanagement of any kind, and the appropriate cuts have been made. But finding the revenue to support all of those things, you know, it's kind of like, I think of it as a perfect storm, because there were so many factors that impacted your district all at one time, even COVID, the price of gas, inflation, all of those things have factored into a financial crisis that the superintendent described.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yes, Ms. Morris, can you explain how a district would qualify for a loan? And with that, or state aid advancement, who makes that ultimate decision?
The decision is, well, let me start at the beginning. If you already have a monitor assigned, as in this case, my recommendation would go to the Department of Education, and ultimately the Commissioner of Education has to make a recommendation to the Department of Treasury. And more or less that is a request coming from it would be considered to be a request coming from the department and the Commissioner. And I'm assuming that all of the information that we've been gathering and would be needed to support his request. And ultimately, bottom line is the Department of Treasury either can say yes or no.
Do you feel that we need a state aid advancement?
For this year or next year?
For both.
For both? Certainly, I would say at this point that we are in the middle of as described by the superintendent, it's been very difficult for your district employees, even who are working with the superintendent and business administrator, to separate, because we've been working with two different budgets. I will withhold my recommendation or indication for one reason, and that is because the final recommendation coming from me to the Commissioner has not been shared with him yet. So I think that that's where it should go first. At the same time that I do that, the superintendent will share it with the board first.
If you don't make that recommendation, are we going to still be on the hook for having you present here And will we still be responsible for your salary,
Yes.
even if we don't get that advancement?
Oh, if you don't get, no,
Yes,
no,
correct.
no, no. No, if you don't have a loan, I'm gone.
So will we get compensated back if you don't make that recommendation? You've been here since January.
Not according, well, that's a good question. I hadn't thought of it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
If since, it is a very good question. I will ask my boss that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. More questions? Okay. Ms. Barakis.
Ms. Morris, please explain what the New Jersey Department of Education defines as a thorough and efficient education for students. What curriculum, programs, and extracurricular are included in a thorough and efficient education?
Well, I think that obviously the program that is outlined, there is a complete, it's almost like a booklet of a pamphlet, I'll call it, of what a thorough and efficient education is. There's a legal interpretation, and as we know, the courts have been over the years challenged to determine whether a district is providing a thorough and efficient education. It involves a tremendous number of different aspects of what we feel a child should be provided through the public school system. So I can't recite every one of those tonight, or we would be here to tomorrow, but I can tell you that it's varied. It's supposed to give, certainly, an equal opportunity to every student in the system, to provide the necessities for the ability to prosper and earn a living and move on. As far as the financial aspect of it, as the superintendent said, it's very foggy in some areas as to what each person in each family might consider to be a necessity for his or her children. Let me give you an example. Some very, very successful people, in the theater, in athletics, in whatever areas, would probably not have prospered if they had not had the opportunity to have that in their educational program. To someone who doesn't and have someone in those fields or in any field might think something else. Science is the most important, or something similar to that. So it's very varied. Trust me in what I tell you, that we have been wrestling with that the last few weeks in looking at this budget as to what is absolutely necessary and what is not. I don't know if that,
Thank you.
I know that
Thank you.
doesn't completely answer your question, but.
Thank you.
Ms. Morris, can you explain why the county business administrator, Ms. Tina Truba, suggested to our administration that we should default on our debt services bond as well as not pay our attorney fees for this school year?
Well, I hesitate to speak for someone else. I can tell you that there has not been one aspect of the budget that has been not looked at for a possibility of resolving the problem. So as far as delayed payments is concerned, that is a possibility if it's at all wise to do that. That everybody would probably have his or her own opinion on it. I don't think that anybody has actually recommended a default of anything firmly at this point. I can tell you quite honestly that everything is being looked at as to the ability to generate some revenue that gets you first through this year without even looking at next year yet.
Ms. Permilli, have we ever defaulted on any loan or purchase order payment before?
No, not since I've been here.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what's the contradiction of information we're receiving? It seems like the county has some recommendations and maybe some of yours are different. So it seems to be a slight contradiction of information. Are we working to get some clarity on how we can keep us functioning appropriately without defaulting? Because that could have great credit implications on the district. I mean, we're looking to purchase new buses, and we need a loan, right, a lease loan for this. And at this time, the 9 buses that we're looking to lease, the vendor is telling us they're not going to approve that lease to purchase because they're not sure how we're going to pay for it, because we don't have a budget this year or next year. And these are old buses that we need to replace. It's a safety hazard for all of our children in our district. So with us even suggesting to default would further hinder our ability to get such loans, to have a thorough and efficient education and safe for our children. Would you agree with that? Or?
I would agree, and I would tell you, let me reiterate, every aspect of the budget is being looked at, and one of them is to defer payments that can be deferred. We are not making that selection at random. As of, I think it was 3 o'clock this afternoon, I had a phone conference with a bond counsel, and I explored every aspect of what that would mean for the district. And that is the way we're approaching this. The business administrator was with me at the time, and we had the opportunity to talk to one of the best persons in the state that I am familiar with who handles bonds. She then had put us in contact with bond counsel. And so none of these, I don't want you to think that anyone, not the superintendent, the business office, nor myself, is just sitting down and coming up with a list. We are exploring every possible area for cuts that have the least impact on our children. Your superintendent has made it very clear to me from the day that I walked in that her first priority in this district is for kids. And I have tried to support, I agree with her, I happen to support that, and we have been looking at every aspect that we possibly could. So we're not, I know you're not suggesting that we're doing this lightly, but I can assure you that we're not. That's not the kind of a recommendation I would make without counsel from an expert on bonding.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have one. Mrs. Morris, can you explain how our transportation, security, special ed, and MLL funding stayed the same throughout S2 when these particular categories increased significantly in our district? For instance, MLL rose over 450% and our non-public transportation over 750%, and those numbers stayed the same.
The only explanation I have for you is that they became all part of the formula itself. And when the formula was written, it was written for all 600 and some districts in the state. And I think that I don't know at the time whether everybody was aware of the impact for each one of those districts, but I think the formula did impact each district differently. And I'm aware that that's part of your revenue problem, and that it is a result of that, as your shows indicate tonight as well.
Ms. Morris, hopping on the back of that, did S2 mean to get away from categorical, like the determination of S2 funding, was it meant to actually get rid of categorical aid and just consider equalization aid?
I was not in on that kind of a discussion ever as to what people thought they were wanted to do or thought they were doing by the formula itself. So I would hesitate answering that question for you. I'm not sure what it in that way intended it to do.
So I do have another question, Ms. Morris. I'm not sure if you'd be aware, but I have the budget public hearing that is happening today for the Lakewood Board of Education. And I was reviewing it, and I found it a little puzzling. Lakewood submitted their budget with the Department of Education with a loan request, which we were told not to do. We were told to cut our budget by the $30 million. But in their budget, it has a loan request for $104 million in there. This is public knowledge. So we were told not to put the 30 million. They have 104 in there, and they're going as planned with their budget planning process. It seems like it's a little different for us and maybe other districts. I know they have a state monitor as well. Do you speak with that monitor? Is there a different set of rules, or how do we balance our budget, which is half the size of theirs, and we have 2,000 more students than they do in our school system?
I'm not going to comment on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Morris, can I ask you a question? I know that you said when it comes to a thorough and efficient education that the list goes on and on and on, and you can't give us specifics because what's good for one person isn't necessarily good for the next. So looking at what our cuts could potentially be for that $25–30 million, in your opinion, do you think we would be giving students a thorough and efficient education?
Well, we would have to certainly, we'd certainly have to know what the list of the cuts were first. I mean, we'd have to settle to be pretty exact to come up with the 25 million. We're in the middle of that right now. I don't know if it's possible to get there without endangering some of those what we would consider thorough and efficient. And it would also be interesting to see if, if they are in any way acceptable to the administration and also the board. I know that your superintendent, I don't want to speak for her, but I know she feels very strongly, as I said before, that kids should be first in consideration. So if it comes down to what has to be cut, I would certainly hope that they're not. But I don't know. I can't promise you tonight that we're going to find $25 million in areas that would, almost everything in a school affects the kids really one way or another when you really think about it. So I don't know if I don't think it's even possible to answer that and say that absolutely no.
I have one more question, just going back to what Mr. Palmieri said. The defaults, when you say we're looking at everything, including defaulting on loans that we have and debts that we have, do you also discuss how that's kind of pushing the can down the road and we're going to have an issue later on? Are you just going to be setting us up, even if we get through this year and next year, for issues in the future?
Well, that is definitely under consideration. And your business administrator loves that expression. We're just kicking it down the can down the road, so we hear it often, and it is being considered. Yes.
All right, are there any other questions?
Yes, I have one. So I know that Ms. Permilli talked about this several times, but can you explain to us again, when we see that we're functioning 23 million under adequacy,
what that actually means to us and where we're functioning under adequacy?
Well, I have the same history that you do. Maybe your superintendent wants to explain it in more detail because she knows what impact that has had every year.
Thank you.
I think what I'm getting at is, is it this, the state determines state aid, and we're under adequacy in state aid, or not necessarily in state aid. So can you clarify where we're under adequacy in our funding?
That's a formula. Nicole, you can certainly jump in if you'd like. That's a formula. That's not your determination of state aid.
Right.
As
Yes, thank you, Ms. Moore. So it is not the determination of state aid, it's how we're spending. So we're 24 million, basically, if you round it, spending under adequacy. And so Mr. Baginski, the business administrator, has done an extensive review of that. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can explain how we are really underspending in every category.
Yeah, so the state puts out a state adequacy report. The last time they put it out was 2023, which basically sets forth like ratios for how many principals you should have, how many teachers you should have, how many custodians you should have, how much you should be spending in co-curriculars and things like that. So based on all of those ratios, that is what puts us at $23 million below adequacy. So when you apply our ratios of how many staff members we have in those different categories and what we spend, we end up $23 million below what the state deems to be adequate spending for a school district our size.
I don't know if I'm being clear, but where are we supposed to be looking for that revenue?
So one of the things we'll do, we'll post it on our district website. It's right off the NJDOE site. It's a public document. It's called the State Adequacy Report.
But where is a district who's in deficit and financial distress supposed to come, obviously we understand there's state aid advancement, but how is the state coming up with the fact that we should not have $23 million? What's the...
So it basically it applies a calculation to how much you should be spending for a custodian, how much you should be spending for a bus driver. It assigns a statewide average for salary and health benefits, and then it cranks that out.
I think the question too, I think if I'm understanding you correctly, is how do we make up for that?
Yes, thank you.
How is the revenue? How do we get revenue?
Yeah, maybe I wasn't...
Right. The answer is we can't. The only two ways that we can get significant amounts of revenue would be through state aid or the tax levy. Those are the two big pieces of how you get revenue in a school district. Other than the smaller pieces like we talked about with grant funding, but that certainly wouldn't close, a gap like that. And the other piece of that is that it has to be consistent revenue. It can't just be a one-shot deal. One year you get this additional revenue, that just creates a bigger deficit the following year. So it has to be fixed. It has to be consistent revenue that the district can count on.
So, Ms. Permilli, so how I understand this is the State Department of Education came out with an adequacy report that says we're not spending enough money. We need to spend $23 million more. And in 7 years, they took $23 million from us in funding. So it's basically the same. They took what they're telling us we should be spending.
Which also proves that we're fiscally responsible, because we're not spending.
Right.
Clearly, if we're 23 million under.
Well, it demonstrates what we've said all along. We are fiscally responsible. It's not a spending issue. It's a revenue issue. And there needs to be a fix to this.
Revenue caused by the Department of Education. Just remember that.
Wait, am I on? Yeah. I have one more question for Mrs. Morris. So again, going back to delaying purchase orders and paying and kicking the can down the road for next year, but if we're having issues with leasing companies for buses, we have capital improvements that have been delayed, and our buildings are fairly old. I mean, they're not young buildings. How do you suggest we go forward in being able to secure money or financial loans or leases through other companies?
When your credit's going to be...
When our credit is not
right.
good and we're not getting state aid that we need to follow through.
That's a huge question. Certainly the interest in the district, I think that was explained in the presentation to, in my opinion, some kind of legislation, to make it simple, some kind of legislation has to kick in to help the district. Now, I can't, tell you exactly how that should be written. I do think that going back to your question about adequacy, the formula for that involves the fact that in a way, when you look at adequacy, what you're being told is that based on the formula and the way that the state determines aid, the local fair share should be coming more from the tax rate than it should be coming from state aid. That's really what's cutting into this when you look at the under adequacy.
So that was actually the answer that I was looking for.
Pardon me?
I said that's what I was wondering, and I was wondering, does S2 have a specific amount that the local fair share is supposed to be paying?
No, there's a formula itself that determines that.
Do you happen to know what percentage it is that that S2 expects the local people to pay?
No, I don't think it's
It's dependent on each individual's
each
town's
district.
wealth.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yep, that's what it's based on. So
Does-
each
does
school
N-
district's different.
Does NJ18A or NJ6A have any law or statements in there? Like, obviously, we're focused a lot on S2, but is there anything in there that would help a district in financial distress?
No, I think it's very, there are a lot of certainly laws, school laws that pertain to the financial management and running of a school district, addressing what you can and cannot do. If that's what you're asking, I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm
but-
just wondering if there's others, obviously, if you start reading all the laws, it gets intermingled. And I was wondering if there's anything in either one of those state laws or about education, right? NJ18A and NJ6A that says that there's anything to help a district in financial distress. Those laws were written well before S2 funding.
Well, there are some. For instance, the question that you went out to exceed the 2% cap, that's in the law. That gives a district the opportunity. Basically, what it's saying is that you cannot continue to balance your budget this year without exceeding the 2% cap. But you can't do that and put it into your budget unless the voters approve it. So that's why, basically, I understand you went, was it last year or the year before? Last year, right? That you went out to the public with that question. And the public can come back and say, yes, unfortunately, you got a no. But if they say yes, then you exceed the 2% and you can raise the taxes to support the budget. And there are districts that do that every year, who want to exceed that 2%. So there are some laws like that, yes.
Is there anything in both of those laws that allows the commissioner to make emergent decisions based on financial distress?
Well, the commissioner has a lot of power in that area, yes.
Okay.
Yes, if you look at the one slide that I had read earlier, it's in there. Yep. I'm sorry?
He could have raised the 2% tax levy in our town without a vote?
Oh, could the commissioner do that?
No.
I think that was the.
No.
Oh.
No.
Can provide emergent relief if determined of a district's in financial distress and there's no one's doing foulness
Right.
or there's
Yes.
overspending or.
Yes,
et
that's what
cetera.
I had read earlier. Yes, exactly. He can do that. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, I just had one more. So it seems to me that everybody's kind of waiting for new legislation, and hopefully that will bail us out in other districts who are in similar situations, but there's no guarantee that that is going to happen. So it's a nice wish list, but if it doesn't happen, then what?
Well, then the cuts would have to be, if you don't have the money, the cuts would have to be made.
And then we would find out the definition of a thorough and efficient education.
But But we understand, Ms. Morris, you're saying that obviously we're putting students first, and there is law, 6A 15, about MLL services that we provide. The state requires certain things that we have to have for all students, including gifted and talented programs, intervention services, and, other items for at-risk students. So, there is an outline for a thorough and efficient education, and I think that,
Yes.
we're going to stand behind making sure that we're offering one.
Agreed. All right, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go have a seat, and that concludes the superintendent's report. Mr. Palmieri.
Thank you, Ms. Permilli. All right. I need a motion to open public forum.
Motion.
Please sign in clearly and state your name and whether or not you are a Jackson resident. Each person is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to speak. No person may speak more than once on a topic until all others have been heard.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, students, a lot of students here tonight. Fantastic.
Can we just stand by the microphone, please?
Good evening. Thank you, board. And actually, I want to thank the monitor for coming tonight, because it's important to hear from really an arbitrator who is looking at the data and the information. Do you mind if I ask a question to the auditor? Have you seen any districts as well managed as Jackson? Or no, let me rephrase that. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best managed school district, from a fiduciary standpoint, what number would you assign Jackson? 0 the worst, 10 the best, so far, from the audit?
I think I'll pass on that.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. That's fine. First of all, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. 7 years ago, I sat in the same room, and we heard our budget being discussed, and then voila, Trenton said, oh, guess what? That $2 million you were going to get, you're not getting that. Right? Too bad. Then it continued year after year after year. So this really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. If it is, you must have just moved to Jackson, because this room should be filled like this every time there's a board meeting. This is serious. We're in really financial trouble tonight. We have students that we saw recently applying to Princeton, selected to Princeton, Rutgers University, Army, Air Force, Marines. These students have a great opportunity here. It is a very thorough and it's a very efficient system. We produce the best students here. That's why Jackson is rated 10 on the top 10 places to live in the state, because we don't accept mediocrity. So think back when S2 was signed. It's not just the governor, it's the sponsors. Craig Coughlin, Linda Greenstein, Lou Greenwald, Teresa Ruiz, and Steve Sweeney. That's right, New Jersey's own. So they put us in this situation, and okay, maybe after the first year, hey, this is not working, because S2 is failed. It's a terrible formula. We know that from the discussion about the transportation, which is an abomination now. We could have changed then. Our leaders could have changed, looked at what's going on. They didn't. I even thought this was a punishment to towns, because let's face it, Jackson didn't quite vote for the current governor, but it actually affected a lot of towns that voted for him. So this is really a system that is arbitrary and not unique, because there are 100 districts, 120 I believe, that are actually going to face decrease in aid, and 400 who are going to get increases. And those 400 are not going to fight for you, because they want their money and they're going to get it. Newark, extra $100 million. Good for them. So again, we've been here with this before. We know where we are. This is really an information session, because there's really not much to do but, hope for the best. And I'm really getting tired of begging Trenton for money. I don't want to beg. Let's come with a solution that we can solve this. We have students in AP courses, we have students in the band going to winning awards, award-winning musicians in this school. And we're also extremely diverse. If you look around this town, people want to come here. They want to live in Jackson. I moved from Monmouth County, and my wife is a long-term Jackson resident. I've been here for 20 years. So, again, this is not a surprise. Again, I want to thank the monitor. I hope, this gets to Trenton, hope someone gets this video out to Trenton and they can see that this is a community that's important, it's worth saving, but it's a tough one. And it's a payday loan. I'll say loan, it's a loan. It's a loan, okay? It's a loan. And the problem continues even afterwards. Again, I can go on and on, but I'm going to let others speak because I know others want to be heard. But thank you for your time. Oh, and just one thing. Let's all be professional tonight in our discussions, please. We can do that. Do you want to go?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me take a moment to share my heart. My name is Susan Springfield. I'm a mom of 4 children who have attended Jackson School since 2006. When our last one graduates from this building here, Memorial, we will have been in this school system for 21 years. I have held every volunteer position known to man. I have been a class mom, the PTO vice president at Johnson, the marching band parent association vice president. I've helped feed drama kids during Tech Week. I've spent many hours at band camp, football games, weekend band competitions, and every kind of class trip imaginable. Most recently, I spent 5 days in Disney World with our marching band and saw them proudly play in a parade, marching their way down Main Street, USA. Not something many people get to experience. I don't say any of that to build myself up. I tell you this so you understand that I know the kids involved in marching band, in drama club, and in the art academy. And one of those is my kid, Benjamin. Ben started his freshman year here, knee-deep in COVID. They were so disconnected. Their mental health and ability to connect with others was damaged, no doubt about it. It was a tough way to begin high school, but he was part of the marching band, and that little bit of normalcy that practices and football games provided helped him find his tribe. These kids learn to play music, they learn to march, they learn to work together for a common goal. They learn to cheer on other schools, be generous with their words, build one another up. Having spent all these years learning from music and life from Mr. Jason Diaz and Mr. Eric Ficara is a gift he will look back on with much fondness, and so will his mama. As the years went on, this kid who was reserved in public bloomed into a guy that tries everything. Kids who are involved in the arts often branch out and find other ways to express themselves. Ben had many band friends who were also involved in drama, and they encouraged him to try it out. Well, that was like a firework was set off in my kid's soul. Mrs. Corey Larson took him under her wing, and wow, he went from a background fish in SpongeBob his junior year to the lead role of Wadsworth the Butler in Clue. I had no idea this side of him existed. I'm not sure he knew this side of him existed. In addition to music and theater, he's also enjoyed 4 years in our art academy. When he came to me in 8th grade and told me he was going to join an academy, I assumed it was STEM because he's always been really good at math. And when he said art, I looked at him and said, "Babe, can you draw?" It turns out, yes, he can. His ability to create absolutely stuns me. In fact, his piece On a String is representing Jackson and all of Ocean County in the New Jersey Teen Arts Festival next month. In addition, the skills he's developed under Mrs. Lisa Stallone have earned him a spot at Mason Gross Art School at Rutgers this fall. With an 18% acceptance rate, our level of pride is through the roof. His application to Mason Gross would never have even been considered if not for the intensive training he was given here in our art academy, combined with all the extracurriculars that have shaped him. He is who he is today because of the majority of programs that are being considered for termination. I have always teased my kids that if I had attended school here, I really could have been somebody. Obviously, the academic side of our school system is second to none. He's held a very high GPA his entire high school career. But for me as a mom, watching my child flourish through these extracurricular activities and the art academy has been an experience I will treasure as long after his report cards are boxed up and put in storage. Math and science and literacy are super important. They give our children a chalk outline of who they will become. The arts, however, bring shading and color to flesh out their true selves. Losing any portion of these programs would be devastating to the community of artists that are proudly crafted here at Jackson Memorial High School. I encourage you to do everything you can to protect them. Thank you.
And I'm just going to break the rules here for 1 second, but that's a thorough and efficient education.
Hello, I am, is it on? Can you hear it? Yeah. Jennifer Kuhn, Council President. I did graduate from this high school. I just wanted to say a couple things. One, I wanted to just say I want to support, our Board of our Education. The monitor, I have a couple questions for you. But I just wanted to say, why would we ever get advice to default on a loan? It doesn't make sense. I don't, why would you be advised to destroy your credit and the school's credit and the opportunity to purchase and get other loans just is baffling to me. It actually kind of scares me that that's even, deferring payments also do not make them go away. It doesn't wipe them off the books. They just come up later. So let's just not do that. What President Giuseppe had brought up about the loan on the budget, just adding it in there as Lakewood did, why you can't answer that as our monitor and, we're paying you. I would think that would be something that we would like to get an answer for, because us getting that, thank you. That's job security for you. You even said it. So if we don't get this loan, you don't have a job. Well, here anyway. So I would just look into that. And that's pretty much, I don't want to take anybody's time, but, I love to see everybody coming out and supporting, the kids and the administration. We have council here and assemblymen, so it's great to see everybody. Thank you.
Hey, so my name's Nate Tolan. I'm a senior in the Jackson Memorial High School band and chorus programs, and I sat in the pit orchestra for many of our spring musicals. I was in the jazz ensemble since my freshman year. I was the brass coordinator for the 2023 marching band season, and I'm in the school's Tri-M Music Honor Society. I've just been so involved in the school's performing arts programs, and they've been able to give me so much back through my 4 years of high school that I just feel like I have to be here and advocate for them during the district's financial crisis. Ever since I joined the... Thank you. Ever since I joined the band program here at Memorial, Mr. Diaz and Mr. Vaquera have always just pushed me to be the best musician that I can be, whether they were inviting me to join various ensembles through the school, or they were helping me audition for regional or state bands, and they even helped me with my college auditions. I've just always felt like there was such a great support system of people behind me, and not just the teachers, it was just the students in the program as well. They were just making sure that I wasn't only like the best musician that I could be, but the best person. This program taught me patience, discipline, a lot of hard work, especially with practicing, as well as teaching me just how to budget my time between music, work, school, and a lot of other extracurriculars. And I've just enjoyed what I've done here so much in 4 years that I decided I want to do it for the rest of my life. This fall, I'm going to be studying music education, so hopefully... Thank you. Just so hopefully I can inspire students to do what they love, just like the school and the district has done for me. And just hearing that some students might not get that opportunity is really saddening. It's not just meant for people like me, though, who want this as a career. Performing arts programs are crucial to a well-rounded education for every student, and studies are showing that playing an instrument uses both sides of the brains, and it strengthens the nerves between them. Students who are involved in music and fine arts overall have better performance in the classroom, and it's especially true in the development of younger students, making it even more critical at the elementary and middle school level in addition to the high school level. These subjects boost cognitive development, they improve memory, and that just proves that music really isn't just an extracurricular, it's a fundamental part of a thorough and efficient education. So, Ms. Primelli and the rest of the board, thank you guys so much for all that you've been able to do. Just keep these programs intact. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Mingai. I'm a parent of 2 students with special needs in Jackson Public Schools. I wanted to first say that the teachers at my daughter's elementary school have done an amazing job for my daughter. They've made sure she reads above grade level, she's an excellent speller, she's kept up with her math. Honestly, I couldn't be happier. If these sort of cuts go through, however, what kind of an inclusion classroom is a classroom with 35 pupils? How do you attend to the needs of that child in that classroom? For that matter, what good is it if the school can only afford to give my daughter speech therapy or occupational therapy once every 2 weeks or once a month or once a cycle? She will fall behind, and because of her special needs, she will never catch up again. And that's it. My son, and I'm very appreciative of Jackson for providing the preschool program, I understand his classroom is essentially a converted construction trailer. I'm sure Jackson would love to put him in an actual classroom and have that space, but there's no way for them to afford that. So S2 works well for some districts, more poorly for others, Jackson. I could tell you that being in education for a few years now, I know school districts for whom S2 works very well, who are purchasing 2 buildings for their preschool programs this year, who, student for student, roughly same size, same number of students as Jackson, have a significantly higher budget, and sometimes you can hear administrators describe their situation as flush with cash. Good for them. S2 works well for some, very poorly for us. What I hope you can do is help our district. Until politicians deem it necessary or deign to fix the S2 formula to better serve school districts like ours, you can help us. You can help recommend that we have the money to keep going until a formula is changed or made better for school districts like ours. So I hope you choose to help us. Thank you.
My name is Kathy DePiro. My son is a freshman at Memorial. You're going to meet him in a minute. I am a committee chair in the Jackson Memorial Band Parents Association. I've also been a PTO president at Johnson when my son was young. My son is brilliant. He's also different. He's written and edited space and transportation history documentaries since he was 6. He's been playing musical instruments since he was 7. He composes his own music. He draws and writes screenplays and directs and acts and creates special effects. He dreams of screenwriting, directing, and composing for film and television someday. These are his passions, his aptitudes, and his future. They are also not the core high school curriculum. Without the opportunities he has had in marching band and Digital Media Academy, there would be no way for him to pursue his academic interests, build his skills, and show colleges that he has the abilities and experience to excel in these pursuits beyond high school. My son needs more academically than the core high school curriculum to be challenged and to achieve what he is capable of in his areas of interest. He's a high honor roll student with the potential to attend a competitive university. To get there, he needs a rigorous high school curriculum with AP courses and electives like band and digital media. My son is fun and outgoing, but has struggled to find other kids who share his interests until he got to Memorial. The clubs and extracurriculars you are considering eliminating have taught him social emotional skills and enabled him to build friend groups. With the JMHS Marching Jaguars, he's made the closest friendships of his life, learned how to be part of a team working toward a common goal, and become a more skilled musician, and made countless cherished moments performing on the field at MetLife Stadium and at Disney World. With the JMHS Jazz Ensemble, he's taken up a new instrument, learned a new style of music, and performed on local stages. JTV, the school district's television network, run by kids as an extracurricular club, is a community institution that broadcasts everything from sports games to chorus and band concerts to plays to this Board of Education meeting. Those are students on those cameras and in that booth. My son has learned how to run a camera, mix sound, create graphics, and switch shows live, all while being part of a tight-knit and supportive group of kids. In Air Force Junior ROTC, he's taken aerospace, his primary academic area of interest. He's preparing for leadership roles. He's learned discipline and loyalty with his fellow cadets. Extracurriculars have encouraged my risk-averse kid to try new things. After 2 years behind the scenes on Drama Club Crew, he's decided to try out for an acting role. What will happen to my son when he no longer has these social supports and these opportunities to grow and excel in the areas he loves the most? Why might our district be forced to cut these programs when other children across the state have access to comparable programs and much more? We have shown that we are fiscally responsible. We have dealt the best we can with S2 and the fact that the state has not fully funded its mandates in transportation, special education, and security. The NJDOE's own notification letter, our district should receive over $7.7 million in transportation aid. We get $601,000. Perhaps the state could start by meeting that funding obligation instead of cutting academics like band and extracurriculars. The New Jersey Department of Education's mission is to, quote, support schools, educators, and districts to ensure all of New Jersey's 1.4 million students have equitable access to high-quality education and achieve academic excellence, end quote. Forcing $25 million in cuts in our district in 1 year is contrary to that mission. Further cuts of the magnitude being discussed in this budget will devastate the lives of these children and be the final nail in the coffin containing their futures. This is not what a Department of Education should be about. We must find a better way. My child wasn't saved by geometry or English class. His future depends on electives and extracurriculars and on the rigor of his high school curriculum. All these programs, literally everything my child loves about high school, band, music, DMA, AP classes, ROTC, drama club, JTV, are on the chopping block. Are the arts, media, community service, leadership, and social growth not part of a thorough and efficient education? My child's dreams, the dreams of every child in this audience and in this district, are literally in your hands. So I land you with just a question. I believe we heard tonight that the Commissioner of Education has the power to redress some of the dreadful public policies that have brought us here. Ms. Morris, will you ask the Commissioner of Education to come before our community to discuss these issues and answer our questions? Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Michelle McCann. Oh, I'm going to step back. I'm going to give you a little background. I went to Switlick School in the 80s and then to Getz, and then I graduated from Jackson Memorial High School in 1993. That same year, I received the Lucy Holman Scholarship because I wrote an essay that discussed my desire to give back to my community. So, as a woman of my word, I started teaching here at Memorial in 1998. I've been a staff member since 1998, that's 26 years, and a community member my entire life. That's a lot longer. My husband and I are both employed by the Jackson School District. And just like I did, my children attended Switlick, are currently enrolled in Getz, and soon enough, almost too soon, will be Jaguars. When my husband and I decided where we were going to put roots down, it was non-negotiable. Of course, we were going to buy our home and raise our children in Jackson. Why wouldn't we? Jackson has built a powerhouse of which I am proud to call my home. So many students have crossed the thresholds of these buildings who've gone on to accomplish many amazing things, both in and out of the classroom. Many of them have decided to do exactly what I chose to do. Every day, I stand shoulder to shoulder with many former students who are also currently employed by the Jackson School District. Doesn't that speak volumes about the positive experience that we created in this town for these young people? Throughout the course of my career, I've taught nearly 5,000 students. I have taught my friends' children, former students' children, all siblings in a family, and currently I have a student in my first period class who I have taught both of his sisters, his aunt, his uncle, and his mother. Sadly, this will not happen again. Unfortunately, this district is on the precipice of change. Families who've been here for generations are moving out because they are concerned about the quality of education that this district will be able to provide in the future. In this current financial crisis, I need to be realistic about what a classroom will look like in the future for me, my husband, and my children. Because positions are lost through attrition, class sizes will continue to grow. From a teacher's perspective, a class size of more than 25 is difficult to manage, 30 challenging, and 30 plus near impossible. Quality will be the first to suffer, classroom management the next. Then, from an administrator's perspective, totally impossible. Now from the perspective of the student, questions unanswered, papers not graded, concepts not understood, and not to be cliche, but another student falling through the cracks. These cracks are only going to continue to grow if an antiquated formula and lack of school funding. If these funds are restored, then these cracks can begin to be filled. We can start to return to a position of academic excellence, tradition, and pride. This is just from an academic perspective. What about extracurricular activities? Sports and clubs unite this community, provide our students with opportunity to see the world outside of themselves, provide students with a sense of understanding to let them know that it mattered that they were even here. Our community has never needed programs more than they do right now. Students need a sense of belonging and comfort, and many of them find it with teams and clubs and not with idle hands in the hours after school. These young people need a sense of purpose, whether in a gym, on a field, on a stage, or in a classroom, all of which are being compromised. It doesn't really matter how we got here. The fact is, we are here, and in the end, who's really winning and losing? Who gets hurt? The children of the district. My children and yours. Thank you.
My name is Daniel DePiero, and I'm a freshman at Jackson Memorial High School. The main thing I'm worried about is, how are students going to grow without the extracurricular activities we've been involved in, and how are we going to learn skills that will be essential in our lives? For example, I'm in the band, the drama club, and Air Force Junior ROTC. Even though they are hard work at times, they're also so rewarding. We share a sense of camaraderie and togetherness, and we always work together to make fantastic things a reality. In marching band, we need almost 2 whole weeks of band camp during the summer and night rehearsals in order to entertain people and put on an amazing show. I love band with all my heart and become such a better musician in less than a year. I was also a member of the All Shore Intermediate Band last year, where I got to meet and perform with scores of serious band students from across the state. The same goes for the drama club, where we spend months painting, designing, moving set pieces, and planning to make our magnificent plays and musicals possible. And we're always proud of everything we do. And ROTC is the most fun and interesting class I've ever attended, and I doubt anything will change that. Every group and club I work in is a team, and we dedicate ourselves to doing incredible things. If we didn't have any of that, none of us would learn teamwork, special skills, and we would not have experiences and achievements to put on our future resumes and college applications. Perhaps the biggest thing to me is the Digital Media Academy, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best program of its kind anywhere. So many of us put effort into our projects to develop our skills, make people laugh, and work in groups so we can share our achievements with each other. We are learning media production skills that are directly related to future jobs, and we are gaining real experience that can get us those jobs. I, in fact, already know what I want to do with my life. I want to combine my talents for filmmaking and music composition to create documentary films on my favorite parts of history, mainly Project Apollo and humans landing on the moon for the first time. You may be thinking, can't you just do that outside of school? Well, most of us will not have access to the expensive tools to create our own films or the expert instruction from our teachers if these programs are eliminated. And there's no one to collaborate with if we aren't doing this in school together. And it's not even possible to be in a marching band or youth orchestra without having it at your high school. If these programs were gone from our schools, there would be no way for students interested in them to access that education. I was recently named to the National Youth Advisory Board of the Media Power Youth Organization, largely because of being in the DMA. Could I have done that anyway? No. The sole reason why I was even able to send my application was because of Mrs. Sandin, my DMA advisor who nominated me, and the hours I racked up during JTV shoots and in-school DMA productions, such as music videos, short films, and commercials. If these classes, academies, and extracurriculars are completely eviscerated, hundreds of students are going to be livid, discombobulated, and lost because we love these classes and the opportunities they give us to demonstrate teamwork, sportsmanship, and how you can find an exciting career path that fits your interests and is best for you. Take that all away, and our school's identity is gone as well. I really should be home studying for my biology test tomorrow, but instead, I'm here fighting for my future. I hope Mr. Antonelli will understand. Good night.
Hello, I'm a Jackson resident, and me and my wife both lived in Manalapan before we moved to Jackson. And one of the reasons why we wanted to move to Jackson was because of the schools. You know, as you start a family, you look around, you look at the towns, and Jackson really was, and it still is, one of the best schools out there. And, we're doing this with our kids. So my daughter is graduated, she's in college now, and my son is a junior. He participates in a lot of the many activities that the school gives him. He's been holding a high honor roll all his years at the high school. He's a part of the Business Academy and has some wonderful meetings at Rutgers and Princeton and some other, business leaders. And unfortunately, that did have to change a bit. The cuts did come, and they had the academy, but they had to really stem it down, and they have more just local meetings. But they all participated, and they all, were a part of it. The main important thing here to realize, too, is that he's putting all this effort in. He's working, his butt off. He's coming home. He's putting all this time in, and he's up in AP classes. And that's what's happening in these colleges, is that they're looking for kids that are working hard, that are part of these AP classes. And when they look at for these AP classes, if for some reason during a senior year the AP classes disappear, they don't care. They don't care that the S2, something went wrong with it and the algorithm didn't work while certain communities grew and other communities didn't. They don't care about that. And this is going to affect not just my son, but everybody else here that is striving to achieve and be better with AP classes, because that's what they're going to see. They're going to say, well, how come there's no AP classes their senior year? We're going to put his file down at the bottom. So these are all really important things that we're concerned about. For his placement and becoming a college-tracked professional. And, so, we're just, really want to make sure that he can continue his success in here and at the school. And, we are concerned with these other districts out there, which you may be able to talk to, or where they're getting $200 million in funding, and what are they doing with that money? They're building a $230 million high school, and they have no money. And townships that are getting all this money, we're trying our best. We're trying our best to make cuts and make amendments for a school and a township that is known across New Jersey as the best, the top 10, as somebody said before. So please, if you can, do your best to continue this and continue the legacy of all these great activities and curricular activities that are available to our students. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Just for some background, I'm Isaac Elsner, and my education journey through Jackson was a bit different because they funded me to go to a private school because I have high-functioning autism, and I didn't really graduate with them. I actually graduated at Collier, which is on the side of this sweatshirt, but what I fear will happen if Jackson just keeps losing funding in general is that people like me with autism and anything else on the spectrum won't get the care they need. They won't be able to help us as much as they can currently. It's really a shame, and it's not just us. I fear for everyone else in the town who goes to Jackson, because if they lose all these electives, it's going to be a real pain on the school system, I believe, because, the standard math, science, history, etc. isn't really. It's basically just saying that nowadays there's just more specialization in learning, It's not as general, and if we lose all these electives, we're not going to have that much of a advantage over everyone else. And it doesn't help that we just lost $24 million in funding. That's not good, because, it's hard to make $24 million back in revenue. I don't even know if that's possible, but it's just still a concern overall, as I mentioned all before. But what I fear most is that, apart from, cutting electives, is what happens to the community overall, because if we cut everything out, I have a feeling a bunch of people who would look to move to Jackson for not just the beautiful scenery and the historic nature of it, like glories, etc. I fear that people will look at the education mainly and be like, well, if we're not going to get a world-class education, well, not world-class, but still good education, if Jackson can't provide us with an education, we'll go elsewhere, because people have the freedom to move. Well, yeah, people have the freedom to move to like other towns, like Upper Freehold and nearby, who, as we just saw from Lakewood's budget meeting, are getting have basically put in their budget that they want to apply for a loan. Well, it feels like we're being singled out because we're doing pretty good for ourselves. It's not fair. How come we don't get our loan, but Lakewood does? I trust in this. Thank you. I'll admit, my family hasn't been on the best terms with the school board. We have fought to get me into private school, but I still believe they have the best intentions in heart. They truly do want to provide the best education as they can, even if that means sending people to private school, yes, but I trust in you guys to give the best education. I know it's been rough. I can say that. It's been rough for my school career, but I know you guys can provide a good education if you get the funding. But the state's just refusing to fund you because they think they want all the schools to be self-sufficient somehow. And it's a shame because, I mean, Jackson's a good community. We all came out here to support you guys, but the state doesn't feel like it wants to support you. So I'll leave the advisor that came in with one question. How do you expect a greatly functioning school district that got a bunch of great funding and has provided a world-class education to its students to suddenly make up $24 million in revenue to continue supporting their students and not having to default on any debts, not having to worry about if they will get a loan, and most importantly, not worrying to see the future of this township in shambles? Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Morrison. I came here tonight to address Ms. Morris. I already know that as a parent and a resident, I have the support of the Jackson Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools. So I'm speaking mainly to you, Ms. Morris. I am a lifelong member of this community. I wrote everything I had to say down because I know that this is a very emotional topic for me. Jackson schools have been a major part of my life since I started kindergarten at Johnson School in the 1980s. I received my high school diploma right on that stage, and I was inspired by the teachers I had in this district to become a teacher myself. I never left this town. After college, I got married, and I decided to raise my own family here. I have 4 children. My husband and I are proud to support these schools and our children. My older 2 children have both graduated from Jackson Memorial High School. They are both successfully attending New Jersey State colleges, and they are giving back to their community every day. My younger 2 children are still here in the district. They are students here at Jackson Memorial. And I fear that they are going to lose the same opportunities and programs that their sisters had. I was blessed to be able to stay home for 9 years before returning to teaching, and I was able to be very actively involved with many of the parent organizations that you've heard mentioned here tonight. I'm not even going to name them because my 4 children are very different. So I've done sports, I've done PTN, I've done band, I've done choir, I've done ROTC, and I was a proud member, and still am, of many of those parent organizations. So I got to see, from a parent perspective, how our schools run. I'm not sure that our average taxpayer understands or realizes that just because an event is school-sponsored, it is not necessarily school-funded. It is through the hard work of our residents, of our students themselves, and of their parents that they have so many of these exceptional opportunities. So, with a grain of salt, every time the taxes go up and the pay-to-play goes up and another fundraiser comes home, we participate. And we're proud and happy to be able to do so. But our funding continues to get cut, and these parent programs can only do what they can do. They're going to keep working hard. And they're going to do the best that they can to continue to give these children these opportunities. Finally, I am also employed as a special education teacher here in Jackson, and my students come to me with greater needs every year. I will continue, no matter what happens here tonight, Ms. Morris, to greet my students in the morning. I will smile at them, and I will give them everything that I can. They deserve the opportunities to thrive. I teach the little ones, the first grade special education, 6 and 7-year-old students. Our resources are becoming more and more limited. We need to meet their physical and emotional needs before we can even address their academic needs. But we do it. Some days, it feels like we're trying to put out a forest fire with a garden hose, but we do it. So tomorrow, I'm going to show up in my classroom with my garden hose, and I'm going to work for my students. And then I'm going to get into my car, and I'm going to drive here, and I'm going to watch the JV softball team, and I am going to cheer on my daughter. So I ask you, Ms. Morris, do what you can to help us as a community, to help us continue to help our students, my children, my students, and all the other children in this district. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Drury, and today I stand before you as a band dad. It's my first year. My daughter's a freshman here at Jackson Memorial in band, and I can tell you with firsthand experience, marching band is so much more than music. Marching band provides structure and discipline and responsibility. It provides a level of coordination and teamwork and camaraderie, but most of all, it provides something for these kids that they might not otherwise have, a sense of belonging. At a time in a post-pandemic digital world where we express concern about kids not having interpersonal skills, this proposed action would take away our children's ability to develop those interpersonal skills. On a personal note, our daughter was one of the many kids lost in the pandemic. The transition to middle school was challenging. She did not do well in a hybrid setting, and school attendance became a real problem for us. What brought our daughter back? What saved her? Marching band and a sense of belonging. She found her people. She found her purpose. If you cut these programs along with so many other school activities, I worry for the future of my daughter as well as so many other kids. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a Jackson resident for approximately 10 years now. I have a lot to say, and I'm going to start with Ms. Morris. From what I've heard you say, you did not state a clear strategy plan or exit plan. I read an article about Asbury. There was no strategy, no exit. I don't understand where we're going. But if I do understand you correctly, your plan is to leave us in a status of default payment with a lower credit score. That's the plan. Yet, we are paying for private school buses, not in Jackson. We have all received or are receiving increases in property taxes. So while our children are getting less, while we work hard to pay more and not for Jackson, yet all of our taxpayer dollars are going everywhere but Jackson. My children have maintained top grades always, never a slip up, top grades, because of Jackson and the Board of Education and the teachers here. I don't think we need a babysitter. I see we have the freedom to criticize certain aspects of our government and government officials. So while some governments enjoy free healthcare, free education, it is our tax dollars which pay for their free healthcare and their free education. Our tax dollars are also going into Lakewood. And while we're paying all these tax dollars for everywhere but Jackson, I am continuing to watch my family overseas get slaughtered with an ongoing genocide. So our tax dollars are going everywhere but Jackson. I don't understand why my kids get less and my family's being slaughtered. And the entity that's slaughtering them has free healthcare and free education. So basically, from what I understand, is that we're looking for handouts, looking for donations, we're ready to fall in default, and for me, my family's dying and being bombarded, and I'm paying for that entity to have free healthcare and free education, and my kids are getting less. So why can't we just keep our taxpayer dollars in Jackson? Like, we live here. I don't believe you live here. I'm not quite sure if I missed it, but who's paying her salary? The taxpayers? So I'm not sure where else, how far my money is going to go. It's going everywhere but for my children.
Good evening. My name is Geraldine Frigetta Drury, and you heard my husband just moments ago. I'm a Jackson resident, of course. I'm sure everyone in this room is aware of the lingering effects of the pandemic. This is not news to anyone, right? Our kids were truly lost, some of them still struggling. Statistics show that absenteeism still has not completely recovered. Our children became more disconnected than ever, and some of them were truly lost. I stand before you as one of those parents. I will not use this time to tell you everything about my child. I will tell you that our daughter was not really in school consistently from the 5th grade. If it was not for 7th grade and 8th grade band nights where she played with the Jackson Memorial Marching Band and that amazing program, we would not be here. I believe in this program. So much that I have been a part of it. I see that this program creates a home, a purpose for so many students that don't fit into the cookie-cutter programs that are typical in school. Both my husband and I have been involved, and we see firsthand the impact it has on our daughter and so many of the kids. It is so much more than bands. It is a family, as my daughter said. I am the executive director of a food pantry and advocacy program. That's my day job. We fight every day so people are not hungry and people have homes. This is a very different kind of hunger, but it is a hunger. We can't take this away from our children. Please don't take this away from our kids. This program and all the other programs, they feed souls, they inspire, they form leaders, and just simply amazing humans. It is so much more than picking up an instrument. This saved our daughter. I know I'm not alone, and I beg you to please do everything you can. Thank you.
My name is Paul Herman, lifelong resident of Jackson, 20-plus year educator in Jackson. And my big concern is everything that everybody else has said. I reiterate and I back everybody else's statements. Worried about the programs, particularly for my own children, but I'm also worried because of the people I work with. This is going to drive people away from the career and from this district to work. And I've worked with some of the best administrators, teachers, and my kids have the best teachers, whether it was Switlick or Getz, and I look forward to them working with my friends that I've known my whole life, plus my administrators that I've known and trusted, and they've trusted me. So I want you to just let the state know that when they complain about the teacher education shortage and people running away from this career, this is part of the problem that they created, not us. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Wilder. My husband and I are both lifelong Jackson residents, graduates of JMHS. I am a second grade teacher at Johnson Elementary School. I have had the pleasure of teaching some of the children of the board members. And I am also a parent of 2 elementary-aged students at Elms Elementary School. I speak tonight as both a parent and an educator. There's been a lot said tonight about high school, and I feel very strongly that elementary school should not be left out of this discussion. We build the foundation of learning for every student who excels in those high school programs that have been highlighted tonight. At the elementary level, we are currently using an outdated and failing literacy curriculum. I fear that the new literacy curriculum we are hoping to implement will be on the chopping block of $25 million in cuts. We have large class sizes already. They are increasing year after year. I am not sure how I could even fit 30 students within the dimensions of my classroom. My colleagues and I work tirelessly, day in and day out. We cannot work miracles with insufficient funding and programs. As a parent, I worry about the foundation of learning my children are receiving. They are in 3rd grade and 1st grade. They have many years to go. I encourage the monitor and the state to please recognize the needs of all of the students in our district, not just high school, and please restore funding to give all of our children a thorough and efficient education from kindergarten onward. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica Burnett. I am a teacher in Jackson. I started teaching in Jackson in 1988. If you're doing the math, that's 35 years. I have also I'm a music teacher. I have always coached. I have coached for 35 years at the Getz Middle School. I have also coached at the high school. Currently, for the past 10 years, I have been involved in the drama program at Jackson Liberty High School, in the vocal department, and as the director of the shows. First, I just felt sitting here compelled to come and say a few things. There have been very few times in 35 years that I have come to a board meeting where I have heard the entire community so unified and having a common goal. And that is encouraging to me, that we are all saying the same things and appreciating the same things. I also would like to say thank you to you guys for making the hard decision that you are not going to cut anymore, that you know it would be bad for the kids that you are entrusted with. And that if the state isn't going to do what we feel needs to do, then let them be the ones who ruin the children's lives. But what I would like to say to Mrs. Morris, and I feel a little bad, I feel like you are, you know, the villain here, and you're just a human who has to look at the numbers, and I get that. And I just want to say to you, to just try to remember that we cannot feed a child academically and starve them aesthetically. That all of the things that make a successful human are equal parts of academics, athletics, theater, music. You know, I would be nothing without music. Don't ever ask me to do the math part. That would be a bad thing. But I know you have decisions to make. Everything that's going to be cut is somebody's favorite thing. Everything that's going to be cut is somebody's most important job. And that is quite a burden on you to know that the decisions that you make are going to affect some people so deeply. So the things that I am worried about are that the state might wait till the very last minute to decide in our favor, but by then, some of our best people might have moved on. And even though we haven't cut things, our kids are still not going to get the same level of the elevated experience that they could have had. So I am urging you, please, whatever decision maker you speak to, please advocate for them giving us this loan or this assisted aid directive thing. Please ask them to reconsider, to reinstate that, to give us that money. We will pay it back, but we don't want to eliminate any part of nurturing all of the students in Jackson. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Tom Riley. I live on Fox Drive. My wife has been a Jackson resident for almost her entire life. I grew up and went to school in Lakewood. Her fondness for the education she received here made the decision to raise our kids here very easy. My daughter is a second grader at Johnson. Many of her friends are in Miss Wilder's class. They do a terrific job over there. My son will start preschool next year. There are no ancillary cuts that will close a $30 million budget gap. Dozens of faculty and staff are going to be laid off. The thought of my daughter having 35 in a class is nauseating. If you've ever been to Johnson School, you can't fit 35 in a classroom. Every teacher will tell you that very few, if any, children will learn effectively. Every child will fall behind. Should these draconian cuts come to Jackson, I hope the community will come together and do everything in our power to provide support for our kids. I don't play an instrument. I'm Shakespeare illiterate. But what I do is I teach science at the college level. I will volunteer to teach chemistry to your kids if need be. I'll teach them at the library if necessary. It may not count toward graduation, but those kids will be ready for college. I hope it never comes to this, but I hope those here and at home with the necessary skills would join me in the spirit of volunteerism to thumb their nose at the state, who has deemed some districts more fair than others for the sake of the children.
Hi, my name is Laura Spencer, and I'm here tonight as a 22-year resident of Jackson and a proud mother of 3 boys who have been lucky enough to be students in the Jackson school system. First, thank you to Superintendent Pormilli, our administrators, and Board of Ed, who have gone above and beyond to fight for our district and keep our students' needs first. I truly appreciate it. I have always been very pleased with the education and experiences my boys have received here. Fabulous teachers, a rigorous curriculum, enrichment programs, AP classes, and so much more have set them up, hopefully, for a successful college and life experience. As important as the academic experiences have been, it honestly is the extracurricular ones that have made the most positive impact on their lives. As we know, building connections, working as a part of a team, all while pushing yourself to be the best you can be, is so important for mental health as well as physical health. We already know the negative effect of not having these activities, as seen during and after COVID. Both of my older boys were part of the JMHS swim team for 4 years. This year was a challenging one for the swim team. Due to last year's budget cuts, the bus to and from practices was cut. As a result, swimmers and parents had to drive to the YMCA every night for practice. Additionally, the position of assistant coach was cut. However, due to the love of the sport and the team showed up every night. And amazingly, the assistant coach displayed his dedication to the team by volunteering his time to get to the pool every day and still be the assistant coach, unpaid. As my sons completed their college applications and essays, I was able to further see just how much being on the team impacted their lives. It was more than just swimming. They developed friendships, new skills, leadership opportunities, and more. Swimming, a new sport to them, became a highlight of their high school years. Attending the end of season ceremonies and hearing the seniors and the coaches give speeches, It was clear to see that this truly was a wonderful and impactful experience for all involved. A few years ago, my youngest son became involved with the drama clubs at Getz and Memorial. Seeing him and the other students spend so much time rehearsing and then performing was an incredible experience for all. The bond these students make with each other, the skills they learn, the way they push themselves outside of their comfort zone is amazing to watch. The dedication of the wonderful teachers involved is something to behold as well. They start their school days so early and then spend many of these days still working on the shows past 9 o'clock at night. We can all agree that the performances are outstanding. However, what not all people get to see are the tears that flow after the last performance of each show. The students don't really want it to end, even though they know they'll be back performing again in the future. At least we hope so. I wish you could all hear the speeches after the last show or the ones they give at the banquet. My heart breaks to think that due to these extremely unfair budget cuts, these activities and others are in jeopardy. Our students deserve all of the clubs, teams, and experiences that make our school district so wonderful. I hope we will receive the appropriate funding. Our students suffered for years from COVID restrictions, and our district has the students, teachers, and staff willing to do all that they can to ensure a fantastic educational experience for our children. But we need the funding to do it. Please do what is right for our children. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Myers. I have a son who will soon be attending preschool in the district, and I also have a daughter that's in kindergarten right now. Shout out Miss Temple. If she's not here, I'm sure she's watching. I reiterate everything that everyone said. I don't want to belabor that point. I think everyone's kind of made the point on that. I grew up with the arts and all that, 100% agree on that. But my background is I'm an engineer, so I'm definitely a numbers guy. I like to crunch numbers. So my question to Ms. Morris is, what is the S2 funding formula? And I know it's been sued about in court, and the state has never actually released the full funding formula, so I ask you, as a state representative, for better or for worse, what is the funding formula? Exactly, by the way.
If the court hasn't released it, I don't have it.
So it's taxpayer money, and it's proprietary information. Do you agree with that? Does that make any sense?
You mean like an Oprah request?
Well, it was Oprah request, and basically the state said it's proprietary information and we can't give this, but I'm asking you, just personally, do you think that that's fair? If it's taxpayer money, it's my money, and I can't find out how it's being used?
Do I personally think that? I don't personally think that, no, but I was not in on the reasons for that or the decision, and that's not passing the buck. I just don't know the answer to your question.
No, I know, it's rhetorical, but I'm just saying. So kind of towards the board, are we still suing to get that actual formula? Does anyone have an update on that? Because I know Jackson was one of 6 or so towns that was suing about that. Is there an update to that?
Actually, the case is over. So the districts that were part of that, including Jackson, did receive eventually a formula that was difficult to even understand, asked for numbers that were being plugged into that formula, and we did not receive those numbers. So at this point, the case is over. It was before I stepped in as superintendent, but I know that there was an ending to that case, and basically, no. Nothing logical for us to work off of.
So I guess the next question is there follow-up, or is there going to be follow-up to that to make the state actually account for how they're using our money?
Well, it all went through the court systems, so I believe at this point there has been a closure to that. It would be up to the districts to then appeal that further. There already was one appeal. They would have to continue to appeal that, which, as you can imagine, costs districts money.
Considering we've lost tens of millions of dollars, I implore the school budget board here to push for that, please, obviously. I found this came as a recent news article. I don't want to point fingers and say some districts are better than others, but I found this interesting. Meanwhile, the state's largest school district, Newark, which we know is basically a black hole, has seen aid increase of 67% from $750 million in 2018 to $1.25 billion this year, $33,000 per student. We get on the order of magnitude, what, $3,000 a student, and we're arguing here about $30 million? Obviously, the state funding formula is not working. We need to sue, because we can basically do what everybody else does, right? There's 33 something Abbott districts. They all sued, and they all got money. So I'm imploring, again, everybody, we should also be suing for this, because this is BS, essentially. Apart from parental involvement, the number one deciding factor on how well kids do in school is basically classroom size. So we're talking about possibly, if this stuff goes through, we're going from a classroom size, my daughter's classroom size right now is 24, and we're gonna go to 40 something. That's absolutely asinine, to say the least. That doesn't work, and again, if anyone's been to Switlick, as other people have said, how are you going to fit 40 something people in those classrooms? I go in there and it is like this as it is. And I'm getting asked to bring in simple things as like copying paper as the other day and coming in and helping out the classroom because the teachers cannot support the amount of students that we have already. And now we're going through this BS that we're going to have 40 something kids to the classroom. That is a knife in the heart. That will kill the district, and that is the end of the story. So this cannot happen. Thank you.
Hi, yes, Joyce Jolliffe. You know, some of the things others said, people said, I grew up in Howell. Without STEAM, I would not be in the architectural industry as I exist today. Like other people, my husband and I moved here about 20 years ago in hopes to raise a family, and one of the main reasons was because of the school district, and we thank you guys for continuing to care for our children. Unlike most of the parents here today who have spoken, who seem to have children in the middle school and the high schools, my son is in kindergarten. So what's sad here, me standing here, knowing that we moved here to create a family here because the school district was rated one of the top schools. What does 10 years, when my son's about to go to college or halfway through high school, gonna look like, Ms. Morris, with this situation as bad as it is?
I don't know.
Well,
That's
what's happened in other districts, is there a precedent for this type of situation? What has happened in other districts?
You mean that have...
That where the state took millions of dollars away from them. We can't close a budget gap. We've done everything we humanly possibly can. What happens when we can't do it?
Well, then the state has to look to other options, and I don't know all of them. I don't know what all of them would be. Certainly in some instances, districts have been combined. You'd have to do a complete analysis of the entire financial situation and come up with a plan that would address them.
So
I think that's a question that's fair, but I think it should be asked of several different governmental agencies, not just the Department of Education.
Okay, so you would combine a 60,000 person town with another town. We're one of the largest towns in the state. Also, as someone who's worked with the Abbott districts in architecture, out of the 31 Abbott districts that exist, I don't know if anybody can answer this question for me at all, it's not just necessarily to Ms. Morris, how many of them received funding through the S2? Anybody done an analysis on that? Out of all the Abbott districts, we call them SDA now, how many of them received funding? Because they get usually 22% higher than most students in the state, percent of money.
I don't have that information in front of me to be able to factually say that, but I would say majority.
Majority, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if we can't function, right, does the state have to step in and we become an Abbott district? So that's a major thing. I don't know if you guys know how serious that is, or what an Abbott district is. The state comes in and takes over our entire school district, and they're the ones who runs it. It's very serious. So we really need to look at that, because yes, we have issues, now and 2 years from now, but for our children who are in kindergarten now, it's really bad. And I hope you consider that when you're making your decisions. Thank you.
If I can, just one moment, please. I'd like to just motion for a 5-minute recess. We've been up here for a couple hours. Some of us need to use the restroom. 5-minute recess. I need a motion.
Second.
All right, we'll recess for about 5 minutes. Say 1 minute, 1 minute warning. We'll commence in 1 minute. If everybody could start taking their seats again, please. All right, order. We were going to commence again. She's right here. Thank you. Sir, thank you.
Oh, all right. Thanks. Yeah, my name is Tom Smith. I'm a Jackson resident for 34 years, 3 children in the school system. And having come from Central, had a little band that tried to be heard at halftime, to what I've seen at these 2 schools with the band directors, I've just been astounded. And it's not like a small special interest part of the school. It's a big part of the school. I had never seen anything like it until my kids were involved in it. Mr. Catone and Mr. Diaz, what they put together, and the parent involvement, and it makes a community where they have to travel for the marching band. What I've seen for the jazz band, I just could not believe. My dad toured with the Yale Jazz Band, so he knows a whole lot more than I did about it. He was too ill to travel to ever see them when my kids got involved, but we brought videos to him, and he was just, couldn't believe it. You know, he suffered from Alzheimer's. When he saw the songs, he immediately remembered whose songs they were, who they were performed by, and it's just, those parts of the school, it's almost like that movie Pleasantville, things start to fade to gray, you know. I just think there were a lot more people here before. Still, if there were 600 or 700 people, my understanding is there's over 18,000 students in the Jackson public school system, and it needs to be a much bigger wave, you know, when push comes to push back. And a lot of people shared memories tonight, and I think that's what has to go into these letters. I know there's a lot of contact information posted with some form letters, but people need to share their memories, concise, important memories, because they have to be read. And if you have to, use shame. Tell them to find some gold bars. Tell them, you know, anything you can think of to make a memorable statement. And I just think we need a wave, a much bigger wave of people involved in this. I know they're available. I know it's hard to get here. Shamefully, this is the first time I've come out, but I will be involved going forward. And people just need to talk and make sure that their friends and neighbors know about this, and to get more people involved. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Michelle Droz. I wasn't going to get up and speak, but everything that everybody is saying today has been moving. And I just wanted to come here and just say, I'm a Jersey girl, born and raised in New Jersey. I came here and chose for Jackson to be where I raised my kids. They've been going through the school system, and they've had amazing teachers, and this right here is my son's very best teacher ever. Talks about her all the time. The bonds that they have with the teachers from middle school and from elementary school going on, they're still a part of their lives. We still talk about her. Some of their other teachers, they go to their extracurricular sports at the middle school, at the high school, they go to the rec games. They made friends. Everybody forgets, like, yes, COVID has impacted them, but our children
also started school in a world where they do drills for active shooters in kindergarten. Like, it's a very different world than when we grew up. And people forget empathy. People, when they're not in that situation, forget what it's like when you had kids in the system. So I'm just asking you to think about if your kids were in this school system and you're hearing what everybody's saying about this community and the teachers, like, these extracurricular activities really do make a huge difference for the children. Being in school, meeting their friends, they then meet groups of friends who are involved in things outside of school, and then they want to do that, like Jackson football, Friday Night Lights, tackle football, basketball. My daughter is in middle school now. I have twins, they're in middle school now. My daughter didn't do anything. My daughter is playing field hockey. She's doing, doing basketball. They're doing track. My son's doing basketball. Like, these are very important things. Our children don't know how to communicate and how to express their feelings. When I came into the Jackson school system, one of the things that was huge was that the teachers want to talk about social, emotional, and the kids need that because the world we live in is very different nowadays. And honestly, I like to live in my own little bubble because I feel like the way that the world is, I don't want to even be here, but the children are supposed to be our future, and this is a very sad future for them and for us if they don't get the education that they need. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maya Minty. I'm a sophomore here at JMHS, and I'd like to talk about how the arts programs have led me to be a student of our STEM Academy here. To start off, music is one of the fundamental concepts is counting and pattern memorization, and I think without that, I wouldn't have the skills that I have to be in this position. And I don't think I could even get up and talk today without some of these programs that I've been in since I was really little that have given me a space to feel welcomed and loved by my peers and that have given me the confidence to speak today. I know that some of these programs are on the chopping block, but they're just as important as our Common Core, literacy, English, science, math classes, and that's coming from somebody who values those highly as well because that's where I see my future. It's just as important because it gives these kids a space, especially ones that want to go into music and theater. It gives them a space to express themselves and develop as a person. And cutting those away, like, it drastically will have a negative impact on all of our lives because we're not going to be able to have these programs that we love so dearly and we have friends in and have helped us grow as a person. And I feel like I can personally relate to that because these programs have basically like raised me. I've been in music since I was really little, and I think without having those programs, like, I can't imagine what my life would be like right now. And I feel for the young kids who are in like elementary school who may not have those, who aren't going to have the opportunities to pursue that interest, and they can't even necessarily have the interest if it's not an open door to them. So, thank you.
How you doing? I'm a Jackson resident. I have two boys in the school system. My oldest is in high school now, 4.2 GPA, high honor roll, AP classes, also plays sports for the high school. My younger is in elementary. My wonder is where these programs will be when my younger son gets to high school. And I'll give you the reason why. I didn't grow up in Jackson, if you can't tell by my accent, okay? I grew up in New York, in the ghetto, and I was one of those kids who went to a classroom with 40 kids in it. And I was one of the kids that fell through the cracks, along with many of my friends. Okay, so when you talk about cutting these programs and these kids falling through the cracks, I lived it. I was there. That's why I moved to Jackson, because I wanted a better life for my kids. I didn't want them to grow up like I did. I wanted to grow up in a better environment, a better township, a better school. Now here we are. My younger son is on the precipice of coming out of elementary school, not knowing where he's going, what he's going to do, what programs are going to be available. My older son is looking forward to college. But without these classes, Where are his options? What is he going to be limited to? You know, I tried to call Governor Murphy's office several times. Apparently he had dental appointments and hair appointments. I could never get a hold of him. I don't know where he was. But no one has an answer for this money. Nobody has answers. The 2% tax increase, does that stay in Jackson? How about this? The poorest districts get the most money. Hypothetically, if Jackson stopped paying its property taxes, will we get more money for our kids? Where's the solution? So you go to work, you pay taxes, you try to better your life and your kid's life, and you get punished? That's not the country I grew up in. That's not the country I want for my kids. And Ms. Morris, you made a comment earlier, which I found kind of ironic. You said that every home should be able to choose what's best for their kids. And yet, here the governor is, or the powers that be, they're going to take away programs and not give those kids and those families those choices. You're taking them away. So if it's in families' best interests to decide what's best for their kids, then why not leave these programs alone? Why not share the revenue over all the townships, even equally at this point? Not, well, you do well in your township, your income level is higher, so we're going to take more money. Share the revenue. It's like the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. They're a horrible team. They get revenue sharing. So what? Our kids do well in school. They get good grades. They go on to good colleges. Let's hammer those kids. Let's punish them. Let's take their programs away. Why? Do you want to make this school district worse? Do you want to make it like failing districts? I don't understand. Murphy has a bill on now. He wants to spend $250 million for a French museum in Trenton. Anybody here speak French? I know I don't. I don't care about a French museum. Take the $250 million from there. How about putting it in the schools and teach the kids about the French? How about we do that? I just, to me, when you come after my kids, and this is what I take it as an attack on my family, on my kids. To me, I go to the grave for that. That's the way I was raised. I don't understand how everybody else was raised, but I don't take that lightly. And that's what you're doing. You're taking away our kids' future and punishing them for getting good grades. It's unfathomable to me why they would want to do this. You need more money for another district? Let that district raise it. Or we'll revenue share with them, but give us the money we need for Jackson. What's the holdup? For the life of me, I can't figure it out. I wish somebody could give me an answer as to why and how. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Henry Torres. I'm a freshman of JMHS. I'm an athlete and a band kid here. For most of my life, when I was little, I started playing for the AYF football team, but it was a choice between band and football, so it was tough for me. But I decided to go with band, and that's where I met a lot of my friends. And instead of doing football, a physical sport, I did wrestling, which I started in 8th grade. But the reason I started wrestling is because of my sister. She is part of the Lady Jags here, one of the best girls wrestling in the state. They went 6 girls or 8 went to this year Atlantic City, and they came out with 6 girls being state placers. My sister was one of them. She came out as 6th in the state for her weight class, 185. She's a great wrestler. She said one day she was bored out of her mind during COVID years. Said, I want to start a new club or sport. So she decided to go to wrestling. She talked to the coach, Coach Lemke, amazing guy, and she said, oh, can I join the sport? Because before then, it started getting newer because not a lot of kids or girls wanted to do it. And the budget is going to affect that when all these young girls, if they want to try a new sport, a physical sport, because a lot of them were male dominant, but now they're giving them an opportunity to do a physical sport. And wrestling was one of my sister's first sports, and that inspired me to do wrestling. She inspired my cousin. She's a sophomore, but she sadly moved to PA. She's still wrestling there. And I do wrestling so I can keep my grades up, because I'm not the most intelligent. And it honestly helped me keep my grades up to get out of classes, small classes, because I was in small classes most of my life. So I did sports to help my grades. And if the budget is not going to let me do that, like, what was the point for me putting all that hard work, my mom paying, she's a single mother, her paying all that money for nothing. And I met a lot of my friends from sports. And from band, there's some fine young girls right over there who are my friends. And Rosie, amazing person. They always help me. They're there. I went to Disney. Sadly, I was in a wheelchair for like 4 days. They were pushing me there. And I honestly don't know what would I do without all of this, with sports and my elective, because I want to be a paleontologist. Some people are surprised from that. They think, oh, he wants to be a lawyer. But no, that's not my career. That's my sister's career. She just got accepted to a college in PA. She worked hard. She's in some AP classes. And if the school district is not going to help us with that, what was all that work for? For my sister to, just did okay, but she's a nice girl. I'm really hoping she goes long and far for me not to see her too. And my mom told us, work hard in school. Don't just sit down, do whatever. Get into sports or activities. My sister is, I think, a president for the Honors National. I don't know that one. But I know she's the president of something. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be up here. All these people today actually got me up here too. So, thank you.
My name is Deb Jones. I am a resident in Jackson, have been since I have been in 5th grade. I am also an employee of the township, the Board of Education, and I have something to say about being the taxpayer and the education employee, but first to the young man, please don't ever speak the words that you are not intelligent, because you stood here and you defended the school district and every educator who has ever spoken into your life, and you are created perfectly. So please don't ever say you are not intelligent. On a totally different side of it, as a taxpayer, I can't wrap my brain around. I've heard many people speak to it. I heard you speak to it, Ms. Morris, that Jackson has been fiscally responsible. So in my brain, I can't figure out how fiscally responsible and the fact that we have to talk about all the things on the chopping block. When I pay my bills, and I meet the obligations that I have when I have a need, whether it's a new car, whether it's a bill I have to pay, because I'm fiscally responsible, that's when I will get the help that I need. So if Jackson as a township has been fiscally responsible, I don't understand why we're not getting the help. And on the total opposite end, I am in the school district every day. And there's a lot to talk about our curriculum, our sports. We have great programs. But more importantly, I serve with an army who are on the front line every day dealing with the social emotional needs of so many students. And I understand your job is hard, and I wouldn't want to be you, to be honest. But like we tell our students day in and day out, we need to do what's right even when it's hard. So I'm asking you as a taxpayer, as an employee, and I know it's going to be hard, but they need you to come alongside of them. You need to grip arms with them and help further a district that has done everything right. We're not perfect. We're humans. We're never going to be perfect. But we've done everything right. We've dotted our I's, we've crossed our T's. And day in and day out, people are going into the schools, and sometimes we're the first person that students are saying hello to, that are getting a greeting, that are getting a hug in the morning because their parents can't necessarily be there. They have to be out working and doing things to help support them. So we are essential workers. Whether we're in a crisis in this country or not, we are always first responders at the doors of our schools, and they need to stay open, and they need to be able to offer the kids what we always have. So I just ask you to come alongside of them. Even if it's not easy, just do the right thing. And you can never go wrong, even if people frown on it, if it's the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Hi guys. So I am Rosalia Mazio, and I'm a part of the band marching band program, and I suffer of stuttering. All right. It started since like I was small, and like in middle school. So like I didn't wanted to speak. It's because I hated it so much. I wanted to like blend in, not speak. So do everything that I could to stop that from happening. So when I went into Jackson Memorial High School marching band program, I met so many like really good people that like maybe like think like, hey, so maybe like I do want to speak. Maybe I do want like to like share my thoughts. Maybe I want to like smile and have fun. So like that's what like happened. I had a really good time, and like it's same for some of these kids who like joined march band too. And so some of them are like suffering for like other problems that like they face, and like they join band, marching band, drama, so chorus, and like and like teams to like help them and like open their eyes, and like yeah, and like and we can't take these away from like kids, is because they hold opportunities for like, scholarships to make friends and stuff. And like also in like middle school, so I wasn't smart. My grades were not the best, and like after when I joined band, so that like made me want like to work hard. That like made me want like to like try my best in like these classes. So like overall, so band teams, clubs is like not just like for like fun. Like it helps like students with like social and academically. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dante Martin. I am a 6th grade student at Getz Middle School. I have been in the Jackson School District since kindergarten at Swillick with the most amazing teachers. Making more cuts would impact our schools tremendously. Our school is already overcrowded. I cannot imagine having more kids in a class. How would we learn effectively? My teachers are amazing because of them, I have been able to make high honor roll and excel academically. I am also an athlete. Playing basketball and track for Getz has helped me mentally and physically get through the year. Playing sports is a part of our school experience, and cutting sports is unimaginable. Having played football for Jackson since I've been 5, I dream of playing for Memorial. I won't be able to do that if sports are cut. Please help our school district. The students and teachers deserve it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Angela Miron. I am a mother of 2 children of Jackson Memorial High School. Excuse my English as it's not good. I only have a few words for you. I want to ask you to please help the Jackson district not die. I moved 13 years ago from Lakewood to Jackson. In regards to the education of my 2 children, I am a single mother, but that has not prevented me from supporting my children in achievement their dreams. I have had to work 17 hours per day. Yes, you hear me right, 17 hours per day, 6 days a week, so I can cover the expenses for the sports, clubs, trips, apparel, and more stuff, so that in the future they can have better life. My kids can have better life in the future. My daughter is a senior at Jackson Memorial High School. She's going to attend to USINES College with the big merit scholarship. Thanks to her great career, she obtained at Jackson Memorial. My son is a freshman, and I hope he has the same opportunity. My daughter is in 8 extra activities like music. Like my son said, she was a wrestling girl. She went to states last year, this year. She hurt her elbow. She still was wrestling like that. My son he's a good boy. He works so hard. I pay for football because his dream was to play football in high school, but he has to decide even football or marching band. He picks marching band. Right now, we was worried about if the budget is going to cut. I don't know what's going to be his future. My daughter is done. She's going to the college, but I still have another son, and I'm so worried about him, not just him, every single kid from Jackson. Please help us to keep the kids' dream up. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Assemblyman Alex Sawicki. I represent Jackson as well as 15 other school districts within Legislative District 12. I'm here tonight not only as your assemblyman, but as a father. I am also the son of a retired Jackson school teacher. I'm married to an elementary teacher. I am the proud father of 2 high school students, including your next speaker, who is a senior here at Jackson Memorial. I graduated from Rosenauer Getz, and I'm a proud class of '89 from Jackson Memorial. I'm here really to try to maybe give you a glimmer of hope. I want to make sure that everyone does understand what state aid is. You know, we talk about state aid like it's this number up in the cloud, and it's very clear what the problem is here, and I'll try to explain it. Also, let you know what I'm doing for Jackson, and how I think this could get somewhat resolved, and I think it's going to be legislatively. The state caused this problem, make no doubt about it, not the people up here. I want to make sure everyone knows that. The state caused this problem, without a doubt. And the only way it's going to get fixed is by legislative measures, not through anything else. And with all respect to our state monitor, and I mean that, I have no doubt you're going to recommend the right things to the Department of Education. I have no confidence in the Department of Education actually do the right thing. I want to be clear about that. I met with the Commissioner of the Department of Education last week, really asked him, and to be clear, said, I want to work with you, not against you, all right? I got nothing. So I think this is going to be a legislative solution, not a Department of Education solution. State aid, so everyone's clear, is the income tax you've already paid. You've already paid it. The proportion of it coming back to your children in the school district. All right, the latest numbers we have are from 2021. Jackson residents, all of you, paid $68 million in income tax. The district's getting $23 million. You paid 68, they're getting 23. We heard about the Newark City School District. Collectively, larger town, right? A lot of people. 115,000 tax returns filed in 2021. They paid $44 million. We paid 68, they paid 44. They're getting $1.25 billion in state aid. Okay? And I've been on record saying nobody wants to see the resident, or the children, I should say, of Newark do any less than any other child in the state. They're all children, right? But you don't destroy good working school districts by sending all of your income tax to one city. All right? Collectively, somebody mentioned stats earlier, 140 school districts lost funding this year. 140, totaling $104 million. Newark got a raise of 101, sorry. 101 of that 104 went to the Newark City School District this year. All right, that's your tax dollars, plain and simple. It's the only way it happened. All of your income taxes went to Newark and other school districts like it. All right, so that's the problem. The formula caused the problem. For if you don't know, what we call S2 is Senate Bill 2. It was passed in 2018. It was sponsored by then State Senate President Steve Sweeney, who, just so everyone is aware, has indicated he wants to run for governor next year. You should think about that. All right? So the gentleman that caused this problem wants to run for governor next year. All right? It was his bill. And by the way, the number S2, I've come to learn being in the Assembly for 18 months, only the special bills get numbers like that. All right? You know, we're up to about 4,500 in terms of bills in the Assembly this year alone. All right? They reserve the bills for the ones they know are the real zingers, the real bills, all right? S2 was one of them, all right? It has taken funding away from our district. The Department of Education's own report, when we talked about state inadequacy for the district of $23 million, the Department of Education's own report says that. Their own report says that we're inadequately funded by $23 million, right? It also talks about categorical aid that a lot of the board members reference. Jackson should be getting $7 million in state aid for transportation. They're getting $600,000. Right? They're getting $2.5 million less in special ed, right? I have another school district. The superintendent, who's fairly new, is ready to submit a budget that cuts all sports teams. All of them, right? They've already cut all of their clubs, all of them, because they can't pay the stipends for the clubs. All right, so this is a district-wide issue, it's a statewide issue, and I will say it's an issue on both sides of the House, right? Both Republican and Democrat. There are a lot of Democrats who are getting hit hard with this. Last thing I'll leave you with, they just added a voting session for this Monday, wasn't scheduled. Typically that's because they know they've got to pass something. All right. They also added committee meetings for this Friday. They don't typically do that unless they know they have to get something through committee and then vote it on Monday. I do think at least the budget will be delayed in terms of the timing. That's one thing I think that'll happen. While you may not think that helps that much, it helps to get other legislation in. All right, so legislation like the bill I have to have the state pay for the state monitor, as an example, could get in. And the bill that I have that actually calls it a loan is up as well. So I'm hoping that gets in and that you can actually take and apply for your loan before you actually submit your budget. So those are the things that I'm fighting for all of you and for all of you and for all of your children. Thank you.
My name is Gracie Sawicki. I'm a senior member at Jackson Memorial. I'm a member of cross country, indoor and outdoor track. I'm co-president of Tri-Am. I'm a member of NHS Social Studies Honor Society, an executive member of World Language Culture Club, and like many others, I'm part of the Band and Performing Arts Department. My family has been in Jackson for decades. My aunts, uncles, and dad all went to this high school. My grandma was even a teacher in this district. I have a younger brother who is a freshman. I was at home watching this broadcast for over an hour. Me and my brother were actually talking about it, listening to everything everyone has to say, and I realized I really should share my experience with this. I'm a member of band and will be happily continuing my study of music past high school. Something that I'm extremely lucky to say is this school has given me the opportunity to take several levels of music theory, preparing me for more than many other musicians at this age can do. Last year I took AP Music Theory. This class was cut this year. I know people who want to take this course but couldn't because it had to be cut. My math course this year had about 30 kids in it. I could not imagine fitting anyone else in this room, and I fear for next year if you have to fit up to 40. I don't even think you'd be able to fit another desk in this room, and it was a pretty big room. This school has given me amazing opportunities. This year I was able to even be part of one of the most competitive high school honors bands in South Jersey, which I well know I would have never been able to do without the help of the band program. I'm also a member of the jazz band, a section leader in the marching band, wood choir, and pit for the musical. I'm graduating next year, but I have a younger brother who's not. I have friends who aren't. My younger brother has one class he's been excited to take since last year, which is AP World. My brother is not going to be able to get this opportunity if APs are cut next year. Even more, this year I have never heard my brother talk as passionately about a topic than he has when he became part of the band program this year. I'm so glad he gets these opportunities at the school, and it'd be horrible if he, as well as so many other students who have passion that they have gotten from this school, who'd have to give that up. Even since elementary school, I've always been told how wonderful this district is, how at the high school level especially, we will be given such wonderful opportunities, how we are one of the top public high schools, how we have people who go to Ivy Leagues. Someone in my grade is going to Cornell. How do you expect people to compete with other high schools and get into top colleges? We have no extracurriculars, no EPs, and electives. I feel like that's going to be very hard or near impossible. Thank you.
My name is Patrick O'Callahan. My son goes to Switlick, and I'm pretty damn pissed off. I always hear Governor Murphy talk about inequities, counteract the inequities. He always mentions that. Every one of his speeches, and I can understand why. I went online, I looked at some of the towns that are, got the most aid. Newark, Patterson, Elizabeth, Trenton, Irvington, Plainfield. I can understand, but one stood out really well for me, Edison. I grew up in Edison. North Edison's a very wealthy town. Let's go back to the word again, inequities. I can't figure that out, how Edison got $94 million, increase of $20 million. Inequities, huh? All right, so if you break it down, J.P. Stevens is the 27th ranked school district in the state of New Jersey, 27th. With state aid, they receive $5,615 per student. Jackson Memorial is ranked 212th in the state. We receive $3,077. I'll go back to the word, inequities, how's that? Now, I go back to Colsneck, 98% increase in their funding. My sister-in-law applied for a job there. And when she applied there, while she was waiting, they had chauffeured limousines for the children to get to class. Supposedly this is inequities, Murphy always says all the time. So I'm just trying to figure out why this S2 crap, this formula that really doesn't work. And Governor Murphy always talks about inequities when Colts Neck, which is one of the top school districts in the state, receives a 98% increase. And J.P. Stevens, 27th ranked school district in the state, receives $94 million, increase of $20 million. And our school district is 212 on the list of school districts. So it's almost like you're looking for a lawsuit. Like all of us should get together, and if you can't figure this out, I think it's almost like a borderline corruption that all these democratically controlled towns got so much money, especially Edison, which is not one of the wealthiest towns in the state. So maybe you can answer that question, where the inequities come from when a wealthy town receives so much money. Do you have any answer for that?
No, sir.
No? So why is this formula, is this all political crap that I'm dealing with all the time? You know, I'm worried about my son. He's 11 now. He's going to 6th grade. So I know like some school districts, you know, I'm worried about like if he goes to class, he's going to even have when he gets to high school, he's going to even have a teacher in English or math. I can honestly, my blood pressure is like, usually it's like 120. Now it's like 150 now. Because I have to worry about my son if he's going to get a proper education. Huh? And my family died for this country in battle. So my son can have a substandard education system because of Murphy and this fucking inequity shit.
Order. I need order.
I know. I understand. My wife told me to stay calm. My sweet wife, you know. So, you know, it's really, I find it quite interesting that we have this conversation. $23 million, whatever, underfunded. Why don't you increase, this is my idea. There's 5 million paying taxpayers in this state. If you say to them, let's say we're increase it $10, that's $50 million, that's 20 cents a week. If Murphy was a true governor who represents all of us, not a certain section of the state that kisses his ass,
Sir.
do on the side.
Sir, order.
Yeah, okay.
Second time, so I'm going to need you to sit down, please.
So
Your
why
time
don't
has been
you
removed.
What's that?
Your time is over.
Okay, thank you. I said enough.
Hi, my name is Lauren Hernandez, and I am, sorry. I didn't think I'd get emotional, sorry. I am the product of a 35-plus kid classroom. I grew up in New York City. I know what it's like to fall through the cracks. My husband and me moved here, specifically to Jackson, so our children will not experience what we did growing up. Not having funding, not having school books, having to share with 5 or 6 kids, not having desks, not having the arts, not having anything. I didn't want that for my children, so we moved here. My son is a 4th grader at Holman. Holman holds so much in my heart. Those teachers and the educators in that building, they treat all those children like they're their own children. My son calls that his second home. He's already in a class that's pushing 30 kids. There's no room to teach. There's already 2 teachers in that classroom, and they've said they can't get to every kid. There are children in that room that need extra attention, and they can't get it already. And it's not fair. His favorite subject is history. And I fear that we won't have the capacity to teach these children their favorite subjects. His 2 favorite specials are art and gym. And if the classroom sizes get any bigger, how will they have the space to appreciate the arts or gym? He has some learning challenges, and with the dedication of his teachers guiding and improving, he's improved almost 2 full grade levels in the last 6 months. And that's mainly due to them filing for grants for extra reading. He would go in the morning, he would go in the afternoon, and he was able to jump 2 full grade levels in 6 months. Without that, he would be failing. And we fear that his friends will not have that opportunity to be able to grow educationally with these cuts. I fear that my son will not have the same opportunity his sister has. She's a junior at Liberty, she is part of DMA, and she is a proud JTV member. Hi, kids. JTV basically saved her. She found her people. She's matured into an amazing, and I don't say that lightly, an amazing young adult, and she's made many lasting friendships, not only at Liberty, but at Memorial. She's also part of the drama program that is at Liberty with the high school and the middle school. And if there's budget cuts, we won't have that. I was able to be at an awards ceremony last night, and I watched the passion that these kids have, not only for drama, but the crew, the kids that build the sets, the kids that get to direct. We may not have that, I'm sorry. By being in DMA, she has learned that not only the arts are important, but that education is important. And I fear for her and for all the children that will come after her. My son has told us that he wants to follow in his big sissy's feet and be part of JTV, but he's only in 4th grade. It may not be there in 4 years when he would have the opportunity. All I'm asking is to please just do the right thing by the kids that were now in school and the kids that are going to come and follow them later on. Thank you.
Like my mom said, my name is Kyla, and I am a junior in Jackson Liberty, and I am a proud DMA student, along with that being part of Drama Club doing audio and also being part of JTV. All of these programs have helped me to become the person that I am now. I just moved here from Nalpin from my 5th grade, and I was coming into a new district and with learning the harsh ways of one middle school and finding new people to be with. I struggled in school, both academics and my social life. Fast forward to 8th grade, and I attended an internship for JTV where I met both Mr. Frone and Mr. Noble. I finally found my spark in life, film. Along with that, my freshman year, I was brought in to do audio by Mr. Frone. A new challenge for me that I've came to now love and appreciate the opportunities that I get not only from theater, but from JTV and film. I come to school every day happy and exciting, knowing that I get to do things that make me happy. Both JTV and theater have helped my social life, my confidence, and along with that, I have made friends, the people standing back there and up in the booth. And I always feel so loved and appreciated with everybody, and it feels like a second home to me, both in JTV, film, and theater. I wanted to speak up, and if I didn't do any of these, I would have not been able to speak up because I suck at speaking. But anyways, I wanted to speak up because they've given me a spark, and I fear that if we don't go forward, we're gonna lose other kids' sparks. JTV and theater have given me a reason to go to college, and I'm not a fan of school at all. I sucked, always. I'm doing better now, but taking these things away from the kids fears that we're not gonna have kids a fan of school, and we will lose interest for kids. A lot of kids are motivated by electives, not only JTV and film, but also in the arts, in theater, and in music. And I fear that if we get rid of it, we will lose that spark. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Dinah Perrine. I've been in Jackson for 3.5 years. I have 3 grandchildren in the school system, one in elementary school, one in middle school, and one in high school. And I'm very concerned about their future here. They are straight A students, high honors, athletes, and they are thriving and happy in this school system. And I do have a question for Ms. Morris. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, so this might not go as smoothly as I might otherwise like it to, but somebody earlier said, what's going to happen if the money isn't there in the future? And your response was that there would have to be a complete analysis of the situation and a plan. Isn't that happening now? Do we not have a complete analysis? And if we don't, isn't it a little late in the game? And we need a plan. Secondly, I'd like to know who your report is going to. Is it going strictly to the Board of Education? Is that where the final decision is being made? Or who are the decision makers and who is going to see your report?
The report will go to the Department of Education. It will go to your county office here in Ocean County. I will share it with them. The recommendation will go to the Commissioner of Education, and he, in turn, will ultimately be responsible for deciding how much money he is either going to ask the Department of Treasury for, or reject the report that I give him, what he really has the authority to do what he wants with it.
Okay, so as the Assemblyman just pointed out a little while ago, he got no response from the Board of Education, and that seems to be a dead end. So my question then to the board is, have you invited any of the legislators or anybody who could be in the decision-making capacity to attend a meeting like this? Because everybody who stood up here, we're all in agreement. It's like preaching to the choir. But what has to happen is, instead of a piece of paper, which they never see to begin with, or a report, looking and seeing and hearing right here in this room the compassionate speakers, that makes all the difference in the world, I think. So have you invited any of these people who might be able to do something about this to attend this meeting?
Yes, good question. The answer is yes. We have an advocacy committee chaired by Ms. Gardella, a board member, and that committee has spoken with over 15 different assembly people and state senators on both sides of the aisle. This is a bipartisan situation and issue here. And they have invited them down here. We've had other public officials here. We had some this evening. We speak to them quite frequently. And of course, we invite them always to attend, listen as well. And we're working with everyone that is willing to work alongside us as well.
And they have refused the invitation.
No, we've also, I just want to add to that, we've also been asked by legislators to provide feedback into bills that they're trying to write to assist.
Great.
So we have been involved in the process.
Okay, good. Another possibility, since they won't come here, what about editing the videos of the people who spoke and putting something together for them to watch? Not 2 hours worth, obviously it wouldn't happen, but just editing it down so that they can see the compassion and of these people. I mean, this is an awful situation. That's all I have to say.
Yes.
McGinley. I want to let everyone know Trenton is our house. Okay, so we're all here and people have made wonderful speeches, but you can take yourself to Trenton. You can sign in, you can ask to have a meeting with your legislator, you can go to committee hearings. So, go to the website in Trenton, look when their education committee hearings are. Look who the sponsors are. Show up in Trenton, knock on their door. Maybe that would be a wonderful class trip to organize these art students to have a visit to Trenton. Parents will drive, don't have to pay for buses, but show up in Trenton because they're not going to come here. They're not going to come here. So that's my 2 cents, everyone. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your time.
Seeing no one come forward, I need a motion to close public forum.
Motion.
All in favor? I need a motion to move finance.
Motion.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Gardella?
Yes.
Mr. McCarron? Yes. Mrs. Barocas?
Yes.
Dr. Osmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera? Mrs. Cass?
Yes.
Mr. Palmieri?
Yes. We will now have board comments, starting with Mr. McCarron.
Just wanted to say thank you to everybody that came out tonight. I appreciate everybody's passion when it comes to our school district. Obviously, we all share in everybody's passion. We're going to continue to fight for our district and hopefully get done what's right. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out tonight, and for those of you who stayed the duration. It was a long night. So, we all agree with you. We all have students in this district ourselves. And to me, I moved here when I was in 8th grade. I decided to raise my family here. And what scares me with this, if we do have to make these cuts, it's almost trading in one problem for the next. Because to me, the scariest thing is young people who have too much time on their hands. And so I feel like the state needs to take that into consideration as well, that you might be able to balance a budget by cutting everything, but you're just trading it in for kids who are going to be home before 2 o'clock, who are teenagers with parents who work. And then what is the state dealing with? It's just trading in one issue for the next. So I do encourage everyone to continue to come out to meetings. All the students who spoke tonight, bravo to you. Use your voice as a tool to help produce positive change in your communities. It's worth fighting for, and I hope that everybody realizes that we are fighting with you. We have our own children in this district, and we feel the exact same way. So thank you all for coming out.
I want to thank everyone for coming out and viewing us on live stream. I want to thank, everybody's comments on the budget presentation, like Ms. Permelli. I wanted to thank the staff and Ms. Permelli for your dedications and commitment and the emphasis on students. I want to thank Ms. Morris for the clarification inquiries that you were able to answer. I am wholeheartedly pleading not to close any schools where we have 36 classrooms in trailers, considering that they're K-8 and there's issues concerning security and safety. And the class size. What happened to No Child Left Behind with all the cuts? Children will suffer. Everyone have a great and safe evening.
Good evening. Thank you for everybody who came out. It was really moving to listen to everybody's story. I think that everybody in the room probably has a similar story and we can all relate. And that's to say that Jackson School District's not alone in New Jersey. There's a lot of districts right now struggling with the same type of deficits. And in the end, ultimately, our students, whether they're in Jackson, Plumstead, Brick, Toms River, Nutley, the list just goes on, they're all the pawns here that are going to suffer. And, I appreciate legislators coming out and offering bills upon bills to fix ultimate problems. In the end, what's become clear, I've read more educational law than I would like to say that I need to. And, for us, it's imperative that we continue to have small class sizes for fundamental learners. We need access to activities for self-seeking teens, and we need career paths for young adults, and we need a commissioner who understands that he has the authority to help in an emergent situation. So thank you, Ms. Morris, for helping us tonight and preaching our story. I know that you, too, are on our same page, and, I think together we'll do great things. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you to those watching. Thank you to those that came up and spoke. It takes a lot of courage to come up and speak. Even myself, I get nervous. I want to give a big thank you to Governor Murphy for putting $33 million next year towards free preschool. After all, who doesn't like anything that's free? Even my own niece is going to be using our free preschool program here in Jackson. However, at the rate you are cutting funds from districts throughout the state, especially in Jackson, decimating our schools, there will be no K through 12 schools for these preschoolers to attend. Thank you.
I too want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and especially the young speakers. It does take courage, and your stories were heard, they were appreciated, so we're very thankful for that. It was stated tonight that there was no mismanagement on our end, so it's really disheartening, as many people have said, that we're basically being punished. We've done nothing wrong. And our students are going to suffer. I mean, we have award-winning programs. Our kids go to top colleges. We have curriculum, AP classes. We just have amazing things. And a thorough and efficient education encompasses many things. And the state social emotional learning seems to be a big, hot button topic that's always talked about. But if you take it, when you take into account a thorough and efficient education, you need to take in that social emotional learning, which includes those extracurricular activities, those teams, the team building schools, students having class sizes that work. We cannot, as someone said, and it's true, you cannot have huge class sizes in elementary school and be preparing these children to go on to further their education or become great humans of society. They're going to suffer. So it's disheartening. And I want everybody to just keep writing, keep advocating to your legislation. There's not much else we can do but keep fighting and keep speaking. Thank you.
I would just like to start with saying, Jackson, you showed up tonight. Thank you. I want to thank all the parents, residents, and teachers that have sent emails to our governor, legislators, and Department of Education. And thanks to everyone who came out tonight. I want to be clear. This board and this administration will not approve cuts to anything that will negatively impact our students. We will continue to advocate, strategize, and put the time in to get it right. There is too much on the line for anything less. We will need our community's continued help and involvement. Founding Father Thomas Paine once said, "I prefer peace, but if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my children can live in peace." Trouble is here in our time. Let's get it right so our children can live in peace. Thank you. Good night. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
By acclamation. Aye.